factors, uncontrollable factors, அந்த மாதிரியே நிறைய content பார்ப்போம். Okay, so I'll just try to complete the remaining set. Okay. For OM and SM, you can completely relay single material, and you can just refer the past year question papers. அதுக்கு பிறகு டெஸ்ட் எழுதினாலே போதும். That will do. Okay. 2.3. 2.3, we have two headings. Under that, we are going to deal with the first one, 2.3.1, facility, or what you call as plant location. Okay, which means where you're going to locate it. Probably, if you talk about, see, we are talking about operations, we are talking about production, manufacturing, etc. If you see in this angle, you cannot have the factory or the manufacturing unit in center of a city, okay, in a residential place. So probably what you have to do is you have to follow the norms. Okay, you have to get, probably you can have the factory in CES zone, special economic zone, or there may be something called a SIPCOT. Okay, so probably government is prescribing these areas are meant for manufacturing, where there will be pollution control norms will be there, and you have to follow the rules and regulations, everything. So this is one point of view. If we talk completely legally, the another angle is, if we talk about location, you need to select which type of location will be suitable. Okay, on what basis? Probably apart from legal side. So one is law, you follow the legal side, and another one is it should be helpful for you to go on respect to transportation. Apart from SIS and SIPCOT, if you go for some other location where you're going to have this proper location, we are talking about the physical geographical location. Okay, so regarding transport, you have to check. Probably if you have a large and large amount of employees working in your company, how you are going to do the transportation for that case? Okay, this transportation I was talking with respect to supply chain management, raw materials, and how you are going to take to the market, the finished goods to the market. Second transportation, I'm talking about the employee side. Okay, so இந்த பாயிண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது எந்த ஆங்கிள் பார்த்தா லொகேஷன் எங்க இருந்தா கம்ஃபர்டபுளா இருக்கும். So that's my question. Obviously, when we talk about optimality, we have to consider everything. Okay. So, general question when we talk about operation management is what to produce, how much to produce, and where to produce. So, now our focus here in this topic is about where to produce, which means it's dealing in two angles. One is with respect to facilities, location, and also the second one. So, 2.3.1 is location content, and 2.3.2 is layout content. Location decide பண்ணிட்டீங்க. If this is the location, where you're going to have the milling operation, where you're going to have the drilling operation. So it should go in sequence. It should not go like zigzag and all. Okay, law வந்து என்ன சொல்லுதுன்னா zigzag இருக்கக்கூடாது, ரொம்ப movements இருக்கக்கூடாது. So if you start a sequence over here, everything should get completed and you should come outside as a finished goods. You should not go back and finish a process, come back and complete another process. It should not be done. Okay. So we'll talk about both location and layout. So first we are talking about location. Okay. So two terms, one is facility and another one is location. See, actually two concept, location and layout. Here our heading is directly with respect to facility or plant location. So we have two terms. One is facility and one is location. So when you talk about facility, it can be any type of setup run. Okay, probably you're going to do the operations, you're going to produce some products, and also you're going to deliver the intended services to customers. You have to think. Whereas if you talk about the location, you're talking about the physical location. Okay. So put together, we call here as facility location, which means where to produce or establish the required setup. This setup is what you term as facility. Definition: the selection of location is a key decision which includes large investment. Probably this is a major problem. If I am planning for a location of 5 acres, okay, in short, okay, it will go in acres only. You cannot say 1,000 square feet, I'm going to run this right. Most of the times it goes in acres. I'm planning to have the location in 5 acres, but currently, depending on my manufacturing and depending on the demand, 2 acres is sufficient. What do you do? Okay, probably in recent Reliance AGM, probably you might have seen, I have discussed this in SM class and company law class. Reliance held this AGM last week. Okay, I think September 1st or 2nd, I think, okay, somewhat in that date. They held their AGM. In that AGM, they were giving intro about they're going to have the solar panels in another some 3 or 4 or 5 years, I think. Okay. How they have planned, I'm talking about the area. Okay, see, how they have planned is it's 3 times the Singapore area. சிங்கப்பூரோட ஜியோகிராபிக்கல் ஏரியா எவ்வளவு பெருசா இருக்கோ அதுக்கு triple the times, which means 5.5 lakh acresல பிளான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. So that much uh, thing is needed. See, when you talk about Reliance, the main business of Reliance is oil. So oil is creating pollution. Oil means all the products of oil, whether it's diesel or petrol or whatever, it's creating pollution. So they want to go for green fuel. That green fuel is due to solar panels. They generate electricity. So probably in future I may be in need of 5 acres, but today I'm just in need of 2 acres. Please tell me, you plan for 2 acres or you plan for 5 acres? Probably you feel that 5 acre invest பண்ணணுமா? It's enough that I plan for 2 acres. So I go for 2 acres. But what happens is this 2 acres may be sufficient today, but this is a large investment and this is a strategic decision. You cannot change it like just like that. Okay, renting வீடு எடுத்துற மாதிரி வேணா மாத்தி போக முடியுது. Okay. So in that sense, what we do is anyway, in another 5 years, in another 10 years, I have to plan for 5 acres. Let me have the location, that place in such a way designed so that it is helpful in the future also. இல்ல என்ன பார்த்தோம்னா என்ன ஆகும்னா நான் ஃபீல் செட்டப்பா மாத்துறது இட்ஸ் அகேன் அ காஸ்ட்லி ஒன் அண்ட் இட்ஸ் நாட் எஃபிஷியன்ட் ஜாப் ஆல்சோ. So that's why they have to plan according. So it includes a large investment. May not be helpful today, but definitely maybe in future. So when we talk about large investment, we are not only talking about building, we are talking also about plant and machinery. Okay. Obviously, when we talk about facility, facility is talking about plant, mission, and other things. And location is talking about building. Okay. So change of location is generally not advisable and it's not advisable, but in a way, okay. And another one case is possible. Okay, because we have to follow the laws. So nature of decision happens to be a strategic decision. Now we note on this heading when the facility location is needed. Probably when I talk about ஒரு இடத்த பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் எப்ப நினைக்கிறேன் to start a new business. Or probably I am already running a business but I am planning to expand. Probably new market, physical market, okay. Or I am increasing the scale of operation. That's again an expansion need. Or yes, please highlight the fourth one, shortage of resources. இங்க இருந்தா பத்தல raw material கிடைக்க மாட்டேங்குது. அப்ப அங்க shift பண்ணும். Okay, so many are planning to come to India because of this reason only. Okay. And expiry of lease agreement is that also happens. Social cultural problems, legal political issues, economic and socialism. These and all comes under the macroeconomic factors. Let's see, if you go for okay, 10 point இருக்கு 10 point ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கணும்னா முடியாது. That's not suitable also at professional level. So don't try to memorize, try to have a logical link. Okay, usually எதுக்கு பார்ப்பேன் start a new business or expand. Why I expand? Probably new market or scale of operation. Also, this happens. I may not, scarcity of resources may be there, but scarcity of resources, if I change the geographical location, the scarcity might be avoided. So that can be taken. These other problems. Okay, let me continue. So purpose of the location study to obtain the optimal location that will result in the greatest advantage of a good facility. Which one you say it's a good facility location? You should strike a balance between cost, which means we are talking about cost, operation management, cost of production and cost of service only. We'll not talk about cost of giving the rent. Please try to understand. Okay, probably we might discuss that in costing or another angle. Probably if we talk about costing, if you go for budget costing and all, we talk about with respect to floor area. That's different. But here, when we talk about cost, we are talking about cost of production and cost of service. And obviously, the service. Okay. It has to maximize the service quality, minimize the cost. That's what we call as optimality, right? It's not only focusing on one angle, it's focusing in both in a balanced way. Okay, matching one another and remain competitive at the marketplace. Probably in terms of visibility and proximity to force it. What are the benefits if you have a good facility location? Probably cost benefit, proximity, and easy and hazard-free transport. So that's a very major thing. Okay? When you say proximity factors, what do you mean by proximity factors is nothing but which are dominating. Okay. இதெல்லாம் நல்லா இருக்கும். But in addition to that, இது இல்ல போயிடுச்சு. அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கு. So if you talk about aluminium industry, for them, they have to check whether power is available and raw material. For the aluminium industry, bauxite is the raw material. They'll check whether it's available. Okay. For thermal plant, for the raw material, coal mines. Because if you talk about the raw material, coal mines, it's costly and difficult, and not only that, transportation is a major thing. The coal, and train lots. That's a major problem. And if you talk about water, availability of abundant water should be there. Okay. And if you go for furniture industry, market, yes, beautiful heading. Furniture industry or desert level. Okay, it should be in the center of the city. Probably you might be manufacturing somewhere, but the showroom unit should be in the center of the city. Because enga office irukku, enga residential areas irukku, anga vehicle better. Okay. And transport, you should do in such a way that is not creating any damage. But most of the thing has changed. இப்பெல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா like actually I was in recent days searching for furnitures. Okay, furniture search பண்ணும்போது I was searching which furniture will be helpful, like sofa come bed. அதெல்லாமே search பண்ணும்போது I filtered three shops, and those three shops are not in the center of the city. It's in the highways. இப்ப எல்லாமே வந்து டைரக்டா ஃபேக்டரி லொகேஷன்லயே போயிட்டு ஃபேக்டரியிலே போயிட்டு யூ கேன் கஸ்டமைஸ் ஆர்டர் அண்ட் கம். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி நாங்கள் ரெண்டு சோஃபா கம்பெட் ஆர்டர் பண்ணோம். ஓகே, ஒன் இஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி மேட் ஆஃப் ஸ்டீல் அண்ட் ஒன் இஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி மேட் ஆஃப் ஓகே. And one thing we say, transporting of furniture was not suitable. Was nowadays we have so many types of packing. The technical packing. Probably if you're buying some small gift article from a small shop, the technical pack பண்ணுவாங்க. Okay, white coal pack பண்ணுவாங்க, thermocol, or you have this bubble pack nowadays in bubble. Okay, it is completely making the item safe. Okay, so nowadays it's quite easy only. Damage-free transport means probably the mode of transportation is a concern, but packing wise and all is quite simple only. Okay, so this is with respect to furniture. It's just an example. We can write whatever you want. Okay, so we'll just check on the factors which will affect the location decision. Okay, I'm going to select the location and what are the factors I have to consider, or these factors I have to consider so that my decision might get changed. Okay, நம்ம நினைக்கிறோம் கமர்ஷியல் ஏரியா மெயின் இடத்துல இருக்கணும், பஸ் ஸ்டாப் இறங்கணும்னா ஃபேக்டரிக்குள்ள போகணும்ட்டு, பட் சம்டைம்ஸ் that might not be suitable because of pollution and other things at all. Okay, that might not be suitable. So first one, sourcing of what I should get raw material, I should get natural resources. Yes, obviously nowadays internet connectivity, key suppliers are proximity is dominant factor. They become the dominant factor. The key suppliers நம்ம ஏரியாக்கு supply பண்றாங்களா, so that's a dominant factor. And whether I can connect to alternate vendors also, and go for cross docking. And okay, this is just an example. Okay, utilizing milk can. Okay, this is just an example. Probably can strike out this point. Then second, markets is whether it's proximate to the market. That's you have to check that this dominant factor. When you say proximity to market will be a dominant factor, means probably I'm not completely making a finished goods. Please try to understand. If this is the set of process, probably from here to here and from here to here and from here to here, it's not happening all in one factory. This is the area where I get the finished goods. This is completely happening in one factory where the raw material is entered over here in machine one, or what you call as process one, then to process two is done in different factory by different person. அப்ப எனக்கு அவங்களுக்கு சம்மந்தமே இல்லை, இது எங்கோட உள்ள வந்துட்டு போகுது. ஓகே, எனக்கு மார்க்கெட்டுக்கு போக வேண்டியது என்னது, ஃபினிஷ்டு குட்ஸ் தான். இந்த ஃபினிஷ்டு குட்ஸ் மார்க்கெட் போற அளவு கம்ஃபர்ட் தான் போகும். இது வந்து எங்க வேணா வந்துட்டு, பிகாஸ் இட்ஸ் கோயிங் டு ஷிஃப்ட் ஃப்ரம் ஃபேக்டரி டு ஃபேக்டரி only. So in that way we'll decide. So proximity to market is how far I have to consider this market as a dominant push. So that happens, okay. And wide geographical coverage area. So which will be the focal point, whether I have to target the customers and based on that I have to do it or what. And connectivity with large customer base, whether I have to uh, choose the location in metro cities or three-tier cities or whatever it is. And lesser time to market. Should not take see, if you are taking the market as a dominant factor, then you have to consider how much time it has to consume for transport freight and connectivity. Okay. There is, if you go for the third case, is cost. Lesser transportation cost should be there. Lesser lease and rental cost. Tax and other duty should be less. Probably if you go for cess, it will be less. And other hidden cost may be there. Whereas if you go for fourth one, what do you mean by other hidden cost is probably if you go for the some factories like BHEL and other factories and all, they have their own commerce inside. Okay, upper the cost is around. Again, different types of costs. Some hidden cost will be there. And fourth one, socio-cultural, community and political issues, completely with respect to macroeconomic factor. The community should be a supporting community. I don't know how far they will be supporting me. Okay, so nowadays we can hear that many of them are having solar panels at the rooftop. Okay, are they also supporting our home? Like if I start that business, whether the community will be supporting me? Okay, I just saw a building elevation, the building construction or design pattern. Just Google search பண்ண one building structure is designed in such a way that completely covered by solar panels. வீடு பார்க்கறதுக்கு நல்லாவே இல்லை. See, I'm building a dream house. Okay, complete solar panels இருந்தா வீடு பார்க்கறதுக்கு அழகாவே இல்லை. Am I comfortable? Am I satisfied? Anna, Probably I thought, அழகா வேணும். See, I'm getting a solar power. Okay. அப்போ சோலார் பவருக்காக போடலாமே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நான் டிசைட் பண்ணணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. So this I went in one article. இன்னொரு ஆர்டிக்கல் ஐ ஜஸ்ட் வென்ட் த்ரூ another one. இந்த மாதிரி தான் சோலார் பேனல் ரூஃப் டாப் இல்லைன்னா ஷெட்டுக்கு பதிலாக போட்டுட்டு they are working and they are not making much money of them. See, if you have the solar panels, you can sell to the government and you can get some money. And government is also giving subsidy also in this case. அப்ப நான் அதை யூஸ் பண்ணாம சொல்லிட்டு ஒருத்தர் ஆர்டிக்கல் போட்டிருக்காரு. எனக்கு பெருசா ஒன்றும் என்னது ஒரு பெரிய சேல் நடந்த மாதிரியே இல்ல. See, he's not doing business, but he's expecting something from that area. It's not satisfied with them சொல்லி போட்டிருக்கான். அப்போ ஒன் ஆங்கிள் சே அழகான வீடு வேணுமா ட்ரீம் ஹவுஸா இல்லைன்னா லைக் கிரீன் ஹவுஸான்னு பார்க்கும்போது கிரீன் ஹவுஸ். அப்போ எனக்கு அழகான வீடு வேண்டாம். இஃப் ஐ ஹேவ் டு ஃபுல்லி சோலார் பேனல்ஸ்னா ஐ எம் மிஸ்ஸிங் த ட்ரீம் ப்ராஜெக்ட். But still, what happens? I'm expecting something to from the government. That's also I'm say. How then the community will support me? Okay, that's not happening. And familiarity with the language. Yes, this is normally it happens. Okay, when we talk about IT companies, usually IT company people in the December month, probably after 10th December, they'll not work. Christmas and 25th. That 20th days, there was a Christmas weekend until New Year Eve. Okay, they'll be totally busy. But after 10th December, they'll not work at all. அவங்ககிட்ட போய் வேலையை வாங்க முடியாது. Before 10th December, they'll be very busy. They'll try to finish everything. But 10th December onwards, they'll not work. They will be working, but they'll be very often they'll be taking leave at all. Till January 1st week. அப்ப அந்த இடத்துல போய் நீங்க புஷ் பண்ண வேலைக்கு ஆகாது. At the same time, what happens here is if that IT person is an Indian and that IT company is in India, we cannot say we are in Diwali holidays and we are taking leave. We cannot do that. See, that's a problem. Okay. And level of crime and other disturbances also might be a problem. And how far the employees will be available over there, qualified. Probably if you talk about education industry, that's a major problem. Employee is a teacher, teaching person over there. So teacher on the education qualification or the okay. And quality of living might be changing and other rules and regulations, legal side and medical facilities. Yeah, that's also very important one. And fire and police service, okay, basic welfare. Apart from this, we have other factors, environmental concerns and how far the skilled laborers will be there, and is competitive pressure also has to be also will be there because என்னோட ஃபேக்டரி ஏரியாவே அவ்வளோ பெருசா இருக்குன்னு சொன்னா that's again a like credit like okay. Should I continue? Factors influencing plant location or facility location. So plant is the other word for facility. We can just classify as two factors, controllable and uncontrollable. Controllable, what are all we've studied now? Just list it, okay? Please classify and list it. Proximity to market, yes, we can control. I can decide that. Okay, controllable is it's in your hands. It's in the organization hands. You can control it. Supply of raw materials, transportation facilities, how far the infra is available to me, capital, labor, wages, and external economics, okay. But whereas if you go for uncontrollable factors, government policy, climate conditions, supporting industries and services, how far you'll get the allied industries, don't know. Okay, community and labor attitudes, that's a major problem. ஒரு லேபர் ஏதாவது சவுண்ட் கொடுத்தாலே நம்மளால முடியாது. They'll be forming an union and they'll be providing the strike and all. It's controllable. Labor separately is controllable, but if they form like a group, okay. For example, lorry drivers going for strike. Lorry drivers ஏன் control இருக்க மாட்டான் because the transportation will go in a different app. If I talk about this labor, probably I may be talking about the person working in my factory, this labor. But when I talk about this community and labor activities, lorry drivers will not. தமிழ்நாடு ஃபுல்லா லாரி ஸ்ட்ரைக்கு உங்களுக்கு மட்டும் நான் வேலை செய்யணும் நான் கேட்பான். ஓகே, அதையும் மீறி வண்டி எடுத்தாங்க தலி. Okay, and community increase. Okay, this is also uncontrollable factor. Okay. So how are you going to choose the correct location? So what are the things you check here is we decide on the criteria because it's your factory. You're going to decide. You choose on what things you have to decide the location, and you go for different alternatives. You identify which are the factors important because you cannot have all the factors in all the locations. So you decide which one has to be given importance. You decide develop the location alternatives, evaluate the alternatives, make a decision, and select the location. It's all quite normal. So what approach we follow here is we have so many approaches. Under that we have something called as factor rating method or factor rating approach. Sometimes we give weightage, sometimes we do not give weightage. Okay. இது வந்து மல்டிபிள் லொகேஷன் இருக்கும்போது நம்ம அதை ஃபாலோ பண்ணிப்போம். ஸோ வாட் ப்ராசஸ் யூஸ் இஸ் probably you See, we have discussed so many factors, proximity factors, probably that may be cost or market or whatever it is. Keep all these factors, make a tableau column like, okay, make a tableau. Probably you might have these problems, right? Did you have this problem? See, this one. I think this is the very first problem, I think. Yeah. See, factor rating method. Hope you remember what you did this one. Two locations are there. How far the facility can be utilized on a rate of 8, how much is given? 3. So this is 3 by 8 and this is 5 by 8. And total patient per month with respect to 5 rating. This is 4 by and this is 3 by 5. So depending on this, you could give the rating. So this is one approach where you can utilize it. Then you can decide which one to do and which one not to do. So this is factor. So what you do is you list the relevant factors. So what you're doing, total number of patients will be available, facilities will be available, so point by point. Okay. Then you assign a weight to each factor. Okay. Then you score each location, which means you put the total score for each factor and multiply the scores by the corresponding weights. If the weights are given, if it is a weighted problem, then you give the weights. Then added weighted scores, you get a total score for each location. Then the highest total score will be the selected. This is factor rating method. It's a normal grading method. So I don't know. Whereas if you go for center of gravity technique, main purpose is to minimize the transportation cost. So what you do is instead of having all the factors in one end, probably instead of drawing in this type of figure, let me draw India like okay. கரெக்டா வரல எனக்கு வராது drawing கொஞ்சம் வீக் தான் இந்தியான்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. If I have my center of gravity probably over here, all it will be pulled up over here. Okay. But is it possible? Because if I have my center of gravity at center place, Madhya Pradesh, இங்க நான் வச்சா இங்க இருந்து நான் ஒவ்வொரு வாட்டியும் ஹார்பர் கொண்டு போறதுக்கு ஸ்டேட் டு ஸ்டேட் தாண்டி வரும். So center of gravity is not talking about the center of the place. Center of gravity is probably, let me change that. If I talk about center of gravity is over here, I may not have all the factories in one direction. See, this is the place where I'm going to go for transportation, either by airways or by waterways or whatever it is, lightways or whatever it is, roadways or whatever it is. இங்க எனக்கு இருக்குன்னா probably Visakhapatnam, Kochi, Chennai, okay, Bombay. These are the major harbors. So if I'm going to have it over here, my factory will not be over here at all. Maybe here, maybe here, maybe here, or will be pulled into one area. So pulling to one area is what you call a center of gravity. எல்லா இடத்துலயும் ஒரு இடத்துல merge ஆகுற மாதிரி plan பண்ணுது. Okay. So it minimizes the transportation cost. Obviously, our focus is to determine that central point between the supply and demand locations. Okay. And key factors, probably you have to check whether this is the supply and this is the demand location. Probably now you rule out this India map. Now you check. So this is my center of gravity point, which is central point. And this is the main stock keeping area. And all this side, I have my the factory, the stock where I keep the finished goods. Okay, the factory go down like okay, everything will be put up over here. And just think, the other side, I have the market. Okay, this is the market. அப்போ இது சென்டர் பாயிண்டா இருந்துச்சுன்னா இது எல்லாமே வந்து கூல் ஆயிட்டு இங்க ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர் ஆகிறதுக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கும். Probably this one content will discuss in transportation model in 4th unit. Actually, transportation model என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, see, instead of doing this way, instead of going here and coming here, please make a note. This is factory A and this is customer A, customer or the market A. Instead of going to the central point and coming over here, what you can do? You can directly come over here. இதுக்கு சுத்தி வரும். அதாவது லாவா இங்க போயிட்டு தான் வரணும். தேவையில்லை. Please write down. That time this technique will not be useful. Please write down understand. So this may be like இங்க ஒரு ஃபேக்டரி இருக்கா, இங்க இருந்து ஷார்டஸ்ட் டிஸ்டன்ஸ் இதுவா இங்க கவர் பண்ணுவோம். இங்க இருக்க ஷார்டஸ்ட் டிஸ்டன்ஸ் கவர் பண்ணுவோம். இங்க see, I am manufacturing Tamil Nadu. So why I have to go for other state? If other state is producing less and the demand is high and competitor has to support over there means okay, let me send from Tamil Nadu. Okay, it's not like exactly the center of gravity is not always helpful. Okay, center of gravity is எல்லாமே புல் பண்ணிட்டு எல்லாமே ஸ்ப்ரெட் பண்ணுவோங்கிறது தான் கான்செப்ட். ஓகே, so quantities of volumes being shipped also will be mattered. Okay, because each and every factory will not be manufacturing equal to demand. See, we have to check this equilibrium angle also. Supply should be equal to demand. இது ஓவரால் இந்தியாவோட சப்ளை இல்ல, ஓவரால் குளோபல் மார்க்கெட்டோட சப்ளை அண்ட் ஓவரால் குளோபல் மார்க்கெட்டோட டிமாண்ட் தான் நான் பார்க்க முடியும். நான் என்னோட ஃபேக்டரி டு ஃபேக்டரி பார்த்தா எனக்கு வேஸ்ட். Now, center of gravity method depends on how far you're utilizing and how far your area is placed in the Steps to be followed. Yes, we find the weighted averages of x and y coordinates of supply and demand. X and y coordinates means you have to find all the factors like, okay. And the result is the center of gravity or optimum. So some point this look like graphical method. Okay, என்னோட ஃபேக்டரி இப்படி எல்லாம் ஸ்கேட்டர் ஆயிருக்குன்னா இது எங்க சென்டர் ஆஃப் கிராவிட்டி வரும் இங்க வரும். That's all. Okay. Application commonly used for warehouse or distribution center selection to reduce overall cost. Probably you might have had this experience in ordering GeoMart. GeoMartல செக் பண்ணிருக்கீங்களா? It goes for one option called as quick delivery. Okay, within 30 minutes they'll deliver. எப்படி எங்கேயோ வந்து 30 minutes குள்ள வர முடியும்? It might be some 5 or 7 kilometers away, or you can deliver in 30 minutes. It's using the center of gravity. அப்போ ஒரு இடத்துல ஹப் இருக்கு, அந்த பாயிண்ட்ல இருந்து ஸ்ப்ரெட் வரும். In case just go off this quick delivery, go for the normal delivery. Okay, scheduled delivery. Call this a scheduled delivery. If you go for scheduled delivery, they say it will arrive in 2 days. It will arrive in 1 week because it has to come from north side. அப்போ எதுக்கு குவிக் டெலிவரி தான் நல்லது? சக்கரை வாங்குறீங்க, உப்பு வாங்குறீங்க, ஆனியன் வாங்குறீங்க, தக்காளி வாங்குறீங்க, குவிக் டெலிவரி ஈஸி. ஈஸி மீன்ஸ் you need to maintain that freshness. Thank you, Bob. இதே வந்து if you go for scheduled delivery, you're ordering a table, you're ordering a chair, let it come from north side. Let it take 1 week, 10 days, no issues. They will not have the main hub over it. Okay. But whereas if I go for ordering the basic provisions which I need for day-to-day life, I need to have a hub in the center of the city so that it's being spread out all the areas. So center of gravity method will be very helpful. So in some manner, the center of gravity is helpful, some manner they will not. Depends on. Third one, yes, definitely I have to check with this one. Break-even analysis at indifference by. But then again, so let me take up the speed. So here, when you check with the operations, total revenue is equal to total cost. And if break even I'm not talking about the profit angle. So this is the figure we talk about usually. Okay. Next, other types. Apart from this, see, I was discussing the transportation model, right? Optimization model, heuristic models, and all. So this is with respect to 2.3.1 theory. Okay. So can you please go? Second heading, continuation of the facility only. First on location, now on layout. Location decide பண்ணிட்டீங்க. Now where to have which component or which mission or which set of department. Okay. So actually we'll call this as an economic activity center. Please make a note. Because we are talking about a particular space or person or group of people going to work, a particular mission or workstation or department, even a storeroom matters. Okay. Or a layout எல்லாமே வச்சுட்டு ஸ்டோர் ரூம் இல்லாம இருந்துச்சுன்னா okay, probably we have this concept called as just-in-time inventory. So when you're talking about just-in-time inventory, if this is your location, okay, this is the area where you have selected, and your mission is placed over here. This is the first process mission. The goods will be directly loaded over here. Okay, நீங்க டைரக்டா லோட் பண்ணதுக்கு ஓகே. அப்ப நீங்க ஸ்டோர் ரூம் மாதிரி இங்க வேண்டாம். பட் ட்ரக் வந்து நிக்கிறதுக்கு இடம் வேணும்ல. Okay, so you cannot have some first process mission maybe over here or here. You should have the accessibility for the transport bit. Okay. So this has to be checked. So definition, general definition is a configuration of department considering all the departments together. Okay, departments or work sectors or equipment or machinery, whatever it is. Okay. So you plan for the pattern of flow. Yes, please highlights very important. Probably we will not discuss something called as probably we have discussed scheduling in the process sequencing of activities. So that's about pattern of flow of material and how the people are going to move around into and within the buildings. Okay. So probably if I'm planning for 5 acres, all the departments may not be in one particular position itself. So there may be department A here, there may be department B here. All the process happening in department A will happen here itself. Then it will be moved from here to here, and all the operations will be done in department B itself. Then it will move from here to here. Okay, it depends on. Okay, so depending on that, whether they are going to move into and within the buildings, you have to check. Okay, and layout planning involves decision about the physical arrangement of the economic act. So we are not talking the economic center activities, economic activity centers. We are talking about how we are going to place this economic activity centers. Okay, please highlight how we are going to arrange the economic activity centers. This is the general definition. Okay, colloquially we can say idan layout. Probably usually I give this definition. You have selected a dream project, the location for your dream project. இப்போ வீடு கட்ட பிளான் பண்ணிட்டீங்க. என்டர் ஆனவங்க என்ன இருக்கணும்னு நினைப்பீங்க? Like a small area where you call reception or something like that. Then you will have a hall or something. I went to my relative's house. Enter ஆனவங்க kitchen. It was like different. Okay, I asked her. Okay, she was a distant relative. Okay, wherever personal invitation. I asked her. See, actually, I not think this. First, we have a waiting area or what you call a reception area. Then we need to have a hall, then kitchen, then bedroom. This is the format. But foreign, no, there's no particular room at all. Everything is like open area. You can use it wherever you like. So I asked her, enter in a kitchen, and there is no that's open kitchen. Open kitchen means there is a door where you can use it when you are going for deep fry. And Indian style is the deep fry cooking. நம்ம வந்து தோசை போட்டாலே நமக்கு அந்த ஸ்மெல் பிடிக்காது sometimes. Okay. So what happens is entering the main entrance, next to the main entrance, she was having. So just roughly, I'll give the diagram. So the place was like this. This is the main entrance. This side is a very big kitchen. இங்க வந்து ஹால் அண்ட் தெர் வாஸ் ஒன் ரெஸ்ட் ஏரியா லைக் இங்க ஆப்போசிட் வந்து பார்க்கும்போது பியூட்டிஃபுல்லி டெக்கரேட்டட் ஏரியா லைக் சம் ஓப்பன் ஷெல்ஸ் மாதிரி இருந்தது. ஸோ இங்க ரெஸ்ட் ரூம் இருக்கு, இங்க பெட்ரூம் இட்ஸ் க்ளோஸ்ட் பெட்ரூம் அண்ட் இட்ஸ் அ ஹால் லைக் ஹால் கிச்சன் எல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது என்ட்ரன்ஸ்ல வரும்போது அது ஹாலுக்கு போற மாதிரி தான் இருக்கும். பட் இஃப் யூ டர்ன் டு யுவர் ரைட் தெர் பி அ கிச்சன். ரொம்ப அழகா டிசைன் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்க, ரொம்ப பிடிச்சும் இருந்தது. ஓகே, அது பிறகு பேசிக்கான பார்ப்போம், சப்பல் ஸ்டாண்ட் எக்ஸெட்ரா எக்ஸெட்ரா. சி இஃப் திஸ் இஸ் மை லைக்கிங்னா தென் இட்ஸ் ஃபேக்ட். But others will say, Puja shelf in the இருக்கணும், kitchen in the direction தான் இருக்கணும். Like if we go for vastu, they'll say in a different way. If that is also fine, this is also fine. But இங்க வந்து நம்ம வாஸ்தெல்லாம் பார்க்க மாட்டோம், law பார்ப்போம். Okay, law பார்ப்போம் and flexibility of the operations will be trans. So general definition means how you understand this one is a general definition. Where this expert Mr. Moon has given a definition. He says it's a plan optimum arrangement of facility. Please highlight optimum arrangement of facility, which includes personal, even the personals here, where the humans has to be located, where the workforce has to be located, operating equipment, even the storage space, material handling equipment, and all of the supporting activities, along with the design of best structure to contain. Yes, beautiful point. That's the highlight of whose definition. He is planning about the optimum arrangement along with the best design structure. So when you plan for, it includes planning for machinery, probably different types of machinery may be having different location advantage. Or sometimes ஒரு சில machinery வந்து எப்படி இருக்கும்னா அந்த temperature, humidity maintain பண்ணணும். All that has to be taken for granted. Okay. So utilities, workstation, offices, tool cribs, so the equipments and other things, ale spaces, the walk area, okay, and coffee and tea base, computer rooms, customer service areas, material storage areas, tool servicing areas, lunch rooms, everything has to be done. Okay. சின்ன சின்ன விஷயங்களும் கன்சிடர் பண்ண சொல்லுவோம். Questions to be, so whenever you find any, if you get any opportunity to visit any factory, probably hill stations ஏதாவது போறீங்க, அந்த டீ ஃபேக்டரி எல்லாம் விசிட் பண்றீங்க, அந்த எங்கேயாவது இடத்துல ஏதாவது either your parent or any of your relative working any factories தான் next time you go and visit, அப்படியே ஓஎம்ஆ படிக்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபீல் கொடுக்கும். Everything will be there. Okay, even a small machinery பக்கத்துல எப்படி ஃபென்சிங் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, அந்த ஏர் ஸ்பேஸ் வந்து எப்படி டிசைன் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, everything will be there. Okay. So I came to speak to one person. He's the CEO of Toyota, not main Toyota ancillary parts பண்றவங்க, பெங்களூர் CMA ப்ரோக்ராம்ல மீட் பண்ணோம். He was saying அங்க அந்த ஏர்ல நடந்து போகும்போது they will not have their hands open. They put it in their pockets and walk. Okay, and when they put their hands in the pocket, they should not spread their hand. You should not, when you put your hands in the pocket, side pockets, your hands will get spread over. பண்ணக்கூடாது. பாக்கெட்ல இருக்கணும், பட் ஹேண்ட் ஷுட் நாட் ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர். அடப்படுக்குமா நடக்குமான்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. Okay. So he was just colloquially saying this way. இந்த மாதிரி ரோட்ல வந்து யாராவது பாக்கெட்ல கை விட்டுட்டு ஹேண்ட்ஸ் ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஓவர் பண்ணாம குட்டியா வச்சு நடக்கிறாங்கன்னா obviously அவங்க வந்து டொயோட்டா ஆன்சிலரி தான் ஒர்க் பண்றாங்க நாங்க டிசைட் பண்ணி. So he was telling that. So usually when you have your hands inside your pocket, your elbows will get a bend. Okay, that should not happen. அந்த முதல்ல டீச் பண்ணுவாங்களாங்க வந்தாங்கன்னா எப்படி நடக்கணும்ட்டு. ஓகே, பொண்ணு பார்க்கறதே பரவாயில்ல போல இருக்கு. He was telling that. Okay, இந்த பொண்ணு பார்க்கறதெல்லாம் எப்படி இருக்கும், கரெக்டா நடக்கிறாங்களா, அந்த மாதிரி கரெக்டா நடக்கும் சொல்லுவாங்க sometimes. Okay. Questions to be addressed. How much space? How much capacity? So probably I'm talking about the whole center, but I have to talk here with respect to each and every center because depending on the process, it might be changing. And how should each center space be configured? What center should the layout include? It should not have all the layouts inside the building. Sometimes it has to go outside the building. Okay, so in what type of layout it includes and where should each center be located depending on the operations. Two dimensions of a location of a center. One is absolute location or what you call as a particular place, and one is Relative location is, see, absolute location in the department like okay. But in the department probably I'm naming as department A. Department A பக்கத்துல department B இருக்கணும்னா department B department A should be that way decided. Okay, so the placement of a center relative to other centers also. Probably there's some communication between A and B. Na? It should be such a way design because transport வந்து ரொம்ப zigzag transport இருக்கக்கூடாது. So if there is A here, if there is B here, if there is C here, if I have to travel this way and this way means it should not have a zigzag transport. Waste of time and there might be some clashing also. Okay, என்னென்ன clash ஆக போகுது அந்த side left right road cross பண்ணுவாங்க. It's not that way. Actually, நான் இது சொல்றது வந்து இது ஒரு மிஷனா இருக்கா இங்க ஒரு மிஷனா இருக்கா மேல போகும் ஆபரேஷன் சம்டைம்ஸ் like we call this as fully where the lifting or everything will be done at some above our head level, probably above 10 feet or 11 feet level. நம்ம கை தூக்குனா நமக்கு படக்கூடாது அந்த மாதிரி லெவல்ல போகும். Again, if you visit factories you can see. So if a person is walking over here and he lifts his hand, so some 10 feet gap, minimum 10 feet gap will be there. And all the pulleys will be running above his head only. அப்போ கிளாஷ் ஆகாத மாதிரி அப்போ ஒரு புள்ளி மேல போகுது சில டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் வந்து கீழே நடக்குதுன்னா ஓகே தென் இட்ஸ் ஃபைன் பட் கிராஸ் ஆகும்போது ப்ராப்ளம் ஆகும் ஸோ தட் ஆல் நீட்ஸ் டு டேக் நோட் ஆஃப். ஓகே ஸோ டூ டைமென்ஷன்ஸ்ல பார்ப்போம். ஒன் இஸ் அப்சல்யூட் லொகேஷன் ஒன்லி தட் சென்டர் ஐ டாக் அபவுட். One is a relative location where I talk about completely center to center how it's been communicated or how it's been located. So we'll go for importance of layout. Yes, the very first thing stands with avoidance of bottlenecks. Already we have discussed what do you mean by bottlenecks and all. So what's a bottleneck? Why we need to talk about this one? Because mission's capacity will not be adequate. Or not only this, we are talking about facility, location and layout. So we have to talk about the storage space inadequacy also. And low speed on the part of the operators. If the speed is not good, obviously it slows down the complete operation time. So what is the impact? Consequences. Production schedules vary ஆகும், congestions இருக்கும், accidents and wastage of flow area because ultimately you're paying the rent for that. So wastage of flow area. And avoidance of unnecessary and costly changes has to be taken note of. So how far you can make it flexible. Better production control can be one factor like, okay, so what do you mean by production control? You're producing the right type at the reasonable cost. So you call this as reasonable cost or right cost. Okay. So when you talk about the plant layout is efficient, it's crucial for seamless, so smooth production control, and you should offer a systematic basis. Also, better supervision also plays an important role. So better supervision means first stands எத்தனை number ratio, எத்தனை number of workers எத்தனை supervisor இருக்கணும். So one supervisor can handle 20 employees means 20 workers or laborers means if there is 21, definitely the supervisor will get overloaded. Okay, ஒரு எம்ப்ளாயி தானே 20 சேர்த்து அப்படின்னு நினைச்சீங்கன்னா he will not be supervising in a better way. So this will be always a problem. Okay, and the supervisor has to get a full view of the entire plant. Beautiful point. The supervisor வந்து நின்று பார்த்தாங்கன்னா ஃபுல்லா என்ன நடக்குதுன்னு தெரியும் at one class. Okay, that's a very important point. Again, if you visit any factories in the future, please make a note of it. ஏதாவது ஒரு ஸ்டெப் ஏரியா மாதிரி இருக்கும், ஒரு 4 feet 5 feet ஏறி நின்னா பார்த்தா எல்லாமே தெரியற மாதிரி இருக்கும், அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும். Okay, if you have visited, you can recall. Economics and handling, probably weightage of material handling. Okay, you're going to handle the material. You design in such a, see, you cannot have all the missions in one single department. You have to have the spread over area. But then some equipments or some items transfers from this unit to this unit. Okay, how far are you going to pay for this? தினமும் ஒரு வேலை ஒரு எக்ஸ்ட்ரா எம்ப்ளாயி லேபர் கூட எக்ஸ்ட்ரா லேபருக்கு நீங்க சம்பளம் பண்ணணும். See, you can allocate cost for this for the material handling, but how much you can allocate is from the manufacturing cost, not more than 40%. 30 to 40% you can allocate. See, they're not selling, they're not saying 10% or 20% also. They are saying 30% also you can allocate, which means what? Maximum 30% or maximum 40% depending on the case. So if your industry is a very big industry, then you cannot talk about, probably if you talk about automobile, car manufacturing, இங்கிருந்து இங்க போறதுக்கு வந்து கன்வேயர் பெல்ட்ல தான் போகும், ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் பெல்ட். ஓகே, the unit will be here, the belt will be moving. இந்த ஒர்க் ஸ்டேஷன் முடிஞ்ச பிறகு நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒர்க் ஸ்டேஷனுக்கு போகும், நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒர்க் ஸ்டேஷன் போகும். அப்ப இங்கிருந்து இங்க போகணும்னா வாட் அபவுட் த எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி சார்ஜ்? I'm not talking only about the employee or the laborer working. See, the belt is moving now, the complete conveyor belt is moving. You have to talk about the charges. அதுக்கு எவ்வளவு காஸ்ட் ஆகும், எவ்வளவு ஆகலாம்னு 30-40% வரைக்கும். How it is avoided? Probably we avoid the long distance movements and specific handling operations can be done there itself. Effective use of available area has to be properly used because it's a very, very large investment you're planning, and improve employee morale. So how you make the employees and workers cheerful, and they have to be confident. Okay, so that also has to be checked. And the impact. So if you provide better working conditions, if you provide better employee facilities, reduce number of accidents, increase non. See, Mahindra has given this ESOP, not ESOP, it is ownership is ESOP. When we say ESOP, we usually call this as employee stock option plan. Mahindra has named this as employee stock ownership plan. Okay. Usually வந்து இந்த எம்ப்ளாயிஸுக்கு இந்த ESOP இது இஷ்யூ தருவாங்க, ஷேர்ஸ் இஷ்யூ பண்ணுவாங்க. பட் மஹேந்திரா அண்ட் மஹேந்திரா இஸ் ஆப்வியஸ்லி எம்ப்ளாயிஸ் தான் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. பட் ஃப்ரம் த ஃப்ளோர் லெவல் எம்ப்ளாயி டு த மேனேஜ்மெண்ட், இட் வில் நாட் யூஸ்வலி கிவன் டு த ஃப்ளோர் லெவல் எம்ப்ளாயி. ஃப்ளோர் லெவல் எம்ப்ளாயி எவ்வளோ சம்பளம் வாங்கிட்டு போறான் அவனுக்கு அப்படி இல்லாம அவங்களுக்கு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. தட்ஸ் வை ஹி ஹஸ் நேம் திஸ் இஸ் நாட் ஆப்ஷன் ஓனர்ஷிப் பிளான். ஓகே, why I'm saying is, okay, this is my கம்பெனிங்கிற ஒரு முறை வரும் அவங்களுக்கு. ஓகே, ஆமா என் கம்பெனிக்காக தான் நான் பண்றேன் அப்படின்னு ஒரு ஃபீல் will be created. Okay, if you create that feel, that is giving more confidence. And that employee at one point of time receiving dividend means this அது ஒரு ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஆகும் தானே, கம்பெனி dividend கொடுத்துச்சு. See, during this puja holidays, if you give a box full of sweets itself, you'll be very happy. Okay. And improved quality control. Yes, that also has to be planned. You have to inspect at all stages. Actually, when you go for inspections, quality control, there will be a separate department. Probably, if I have some 5 departments, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When this output is coming from first department, there will be a quality check, and they'll be labeling it. And it goes to second department. All the process gets completed, and there will be a quality check, and they'll be labeling it. Then comes here, quality check 3, quality check 4, quality check 5. So this is department by department quality check. Ultimately, this will be pulled up to one area. The finished goods will be pulled up to one area. இதெல்லாமே இருக்கா சொல்லிட்டு quality check specific அவங்க பண்ணுவாங்க. Here they'll go for sample wise. இங்க வந்து sample wise will almost everything will be taken. Here they'll go for, most of the case they're going sample wise. Okay, I went for a clothing industry in the Tirupur side. Clothing industry. It comes in big rolls and rolls and rolls. They cannot go for everything is done in quality check department 1, department 2. So five sub quality departments are working for this quality check, and there is a final major department. அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா ஏதாவது ஒரு ரோல்ல இருந்து லைட்டா துணியை கட் பண்ணி they are checking this sign போகுதா, okay, like but whether it's getting not only faded away, if you put it in water, the material should not change. Okay, probably you might have ஏதாவது துணி வாங்கும்போது பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. They say it will become hard, it will become thick. இல்ல இன்னும் சாஃப்ட் ஆகும் சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. So how far it's working? இதெல்லாம் வந்து they will go for quality check. Whatever is manufactured in these 5 departments, everything comes. See, 5 different departments means that's 5 different processes. Okay, when it comes to the whole quality check department, in this department it stays for 2 days, completely for quality check. அப்போ எவ்வளவு ஸ்பேஸ் வேணும்னா நம்ம குவாலிட்டி செக் தானே, ஒரு 4 சாம்பிள் பார்க்க இல்ல 4 சாம்பிள் பார்க்கறதுக்கு முன்னாடி அந்த ஸ்டாக்கை நீங்க மெயின்டைன் பண்ணணும். ஸோ யூ ஹேவ் டு பிளான் அக்கார்டிங்லி. Okay, so ensure ample space. See, that's the important thing. We ensure ample space. And yes, improvise the utilization of labor. So how can you streamline the operation so that you get the effective work from there? Minimization of production delays, so lead times and all can be reduced. Okay, and minimum equipment investment. You need not go for investing a large in equipments and all. Okay, so you go for a mission balance and location balance. Minimize the handling distances, the distance that can be minimized. Install general purpose machine. General purpose machine install பண்ணீங்கன்னா multi purpose மாதிரி யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம். Okay, instead of specific purpose. Plan machine loading and all you can do. Okay. So 11 points back. Can you just go through here, please? For new layers, what are the things you have to keep in your mind? For long run efficiency, because it's new, probably it is going to work. That factory will be there, that operations will be there for lengthy days, lengthy years. Probably company another 50 years, 70 years, or 100 years. You have to be very careful. So long run efficiency in operations, competitive priorities. Now you might not be having much tough competition, but in later period you're going to face that. Okay. So when you talk about competitive priorities, there are some factors which are affecting the competitive priorities. Probably with respect to capacity, what are the process involved? So now it might be completely manual. In future, it's going to be automatic. So how are you going to take that? Flexibility and cost, quality of work life, customer contact also matters over here, and the image, the goodwill of the company. It's also for strategic advantage. Necessity for layouts. Why? Yes, the very first one is to avoid accident, health hazards, and road safety. To adapt to the changes like environmental changes, legal changes in processes, or maybe in methods or equipment in product design or service design, even in the volume of output or product mix changes, whatever it can be. Okay, and to overcome inefficient operations and low employee morale, and also please highlight to introduction new products or services. It happens, right? I'm not going to have the same old products manufactured. Probably I might be planning new products, so ಅದಕ್ಕೆ the மாதிரியான department and etc. will be having. Goals and objectives to allow workers and equipment to operate more effectively. So primary goal to maximize the profit by arrangement of all the plant facilities to the best advantage of total manufacturing. Please highlight. It's about the total manufacturing of the product. Okay. Not particular plant I'm talking. I'm talking about the full product I'm talking. Apart from this, we have some other objectives. Somewhat looks like a big list, but more or less same content is repeated. Efficient utilization of labor and equipment, higher flexibility. Probably again, yeah, sometimes it happens. You design the layout in such a case that you change in a easy way. Okay. இப்போ இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கு manual. Future, I'm going to go for automatic or semi-automatic. Directly, I'm not stuck for automatic. If I'm going for semi-automatic, means the layout can be flexibly done. So that has to be checked, flexibly changed. Okay. High utilization of space, equipment, and people. Improve employee morale is sort normal. Improve flow of materials, information, people, production capacity, reducing the congestion, reducing bottleneck, reducing hazards, health hazards, accidents, reducing material handling costs to allow ease of maintenance. Actually, நான் இதை repeat பண்ண வேண்டாம். Objectives போட்டா அது மிஸ் பண்றதுக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கும். That's why I have posted this one. To allow ease of maintenance, better coordination, and face-to-face communication. Sometimes we need this one. Face-to-face communication is needed. Improve productivity, ease of supervision, product flexibility and volume flexibility. Avoid available space efficiently and effectively. Improve communication and increase customer convenience and sales. Especially this happens in service organization. So when you go for choosing the layout, what are the fundamental questions you are going to raise here? Okay. So you raise this question, get the answer, and design accordingly. So whether to plan the layout for current or future needs. Yes, it's important. இடமே ரொம்ப சின்னதா இருக்கு. ஏன் future needsக்காக plan பண்றீங்க? So if you have chosen the layout, probably location based பண்ணி பார்க்கலாம். If you have chosen the location for the current need, choose the layout for the current need. Okay, why are you planning for the future? So it depends on whether you're going to plan for the current or whether you're going to plan for the future. And also whether you're going to select a single story or multi-story building. Most of the production units goes in single story only. And the construction, it will be like 30, 40 feet height ceiling along. It will not be like normal house in 10, 11 feet. It goes for 30, 40 feet ceiling. Okay. And what type of layout you're going to choose and what performance criteria are going to consider. Okay. Shall I continue? Yes. Factors that influence. Already we have discussed location, so I'm not going line by line. Okay. Next is machinery and equipment. So what type of product, accordingly, what type of machinery, what is needed. Managing policy also matters here. So how far they are planning, whether they are planning with respect to large volume of production, economies of scale or lower than that. Also, extent of automation, make or buy decisions, speed of delivery also matters. So probably if you're planning for GeoMart, half an hour we are getting means likewise, I need to plan the location. Okay. So purchasing and inventory policy is personal. Whereas if you go for material, means raw material, how you're going to handle. How about the storage areas? Probably I may plan for just-in-time inventory. I need not go for storage area necessarily. Product is other influencing products like what type of product is this, light or heavy. Again, if you go for GeoMart, தக்காளி எவ்வளவு நாள் வச்சுக்க முடியும் நான் வெங்காயத்தை எவ்வளவு நாள் வச்சுக்க முடியும் Today I saw this GeoMart. I saw this 5 rupees per kg onion. 1 kg onion is just 5 rupees. எதனாலும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா that onion is like it has more moisture. வெட்டா இருக்குன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க ஈரமா இருந்துச்சுன்னா வெயிட்டா இருக்கும் ஆனியன் பிடிக்காது அதனால they are giving for 5 rupees. Okay, let's think it. How we did this 5 rupees that onion is not having that proper moisture and all. So moisture அதிகமா இருக்கு. Okay, that's why. So what they have to do is they have to discard it. So when they're talking about discarding, is that type of a product where it has to be given first priority to discard. So what the product are manufacturing, lighter, heavier, bigger, smaller, liquid, solid, everything matters here. Solid spills away, no issues. Liquid spills away, probably totally makes the place hazardous for other equipment also. So that's a major problem. And what type of layout also? Shipbuilding, you need a different layout. Okay, aircraft assembly, different layout, locomotive, other layout. Then types of industry, yes, this is often asked a question. Let me go in a slow manner. இது மட்டுமே பர்டிகுலரா ஒன் வேர்ட்ல தான் கேட்டிருக்காங்க. ஸோ when you go for industry, usually we'll define in four different angles. One is synthetic, analytical, conditioning, and extractive. Okay, we are not going in detail. Only these things are given. ஏன்னா கம்ப்ளீட்டா நம்ம வந்து டெக்னிக்கல் சைட்ல போகல, இதெல்லாமே டெக்னிக்கல். ஓகே, நம்ம ஓஎம்ல ஜஸ்ட் ஒரு ஹைலைட் தான் கொடுப்போம். வாட் எவர் ஃபார் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி, ப்ராபப்ளி under synthetic, we may talk about INC two categories. See, all the cases we have INC. Okay, what is this INC standards? I is intermittent type of industry. C means continuous, like sugar, cement, and a continuous type of industry. So when you go for synthetic, you may have both intermittent or continuous. Likewise, for analytical also we have, for conditioning also we have, extractive also we have. So this falls under what type of industry or forming or developing for. Okay, one word from once or twice வந்து இவ்வளவுதான், இதுக்கு மேல டீடைலிங்ஸ். Okay. Then workers is the gender of employees matters there. Position of employees. Position means not management or laborer. They are talking about whether staffing or sitting. Okay, that's the important one. An employee. Mahindra was not Mahindra, Toyota. Okay, I got this message from direct that person only. Toyota and Toyota ஒரு பர்டிகுலரா ஒரு இடத்துல வந்து அந்த பாயிண்ட் கரெக்டா ஃபிக்ஸ் ஆகுது. லைக் two objects, something they have to link it. Okay, to link this எங்கேயோ இடத்துல லிங்க் பண்ணக்கூடாது. That one particular point will be there. They have to connect it. They have to join it. And the connectivity point இருக்குல்ல, probably I change the color. Probably if the connectivity point is this one and this one. ஒவ்வொரு வாட்டியும் வந்து அவங்க தலைய நாட் பண்ணி பார்க்க வேண்டியதாங்கல்ல. They have to let their head to the complete left 90 degrees மாத்தணும். 90 இப்படியே மாத்தணும்னா எவ்வளவு வாட்டி மாத்துவீங்க? And for one day, he will be at least turning to his left 90 degrees for 200 to 250 times. Another what they did a simple job. He's a cost accountant. He did a simple job. இங்க வந்து இந்த பாயிண்ட் தெரியுற மாதிரி ஒரு மிரர் வச்சுட்டாங்க. So it will be reflected in the mirror and see them. So he will not turn left or right. Directly he can change his vision sight alone. கண்ணில் மட்டும் மாத்தினா போதும். ஓகே, அதெல்லாம் என்ன தெரியுமா ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம்னா, அந்த ரிஃப்ளெக்ஷன் வந்து வேற விஷயம்ல பட்டு டேமேஜ் ஆகுது. ஓகே, தட் வாஸ் ஆல்சோ டேக்கன் நோட் ஆஃப். ஓகே, கண்ணாடி வச்ச வேலை முடிஞ்சதுன்னு நினைக்கிறோம். அந்த கண்ணாடியோட லைட் ரிஃப்ளெக்ட் ஆயிட்டு வேற மிஷின்ல பட்டுச்சுன்னா அந்த மிஷினோட எஃபிஷியன்சி போயிடும், என்னோட டேமேஜ் ஆகும், ஆக்சிடென்ட்ஸ் வர சான்சஸ். அண்ட் மோரோவர் இந்த மிரர்ஸ் எல்லாமே வந்து ஃபேக்டரிஸ்ல நாட் அலவுட். டிபெண்டிங் ஆன் ஏன் நாட் அலவுட்னா, இஃப் சம் லைட் இஸ் பாசிங் அண்ட் தட் லைட் கெட்ஸ் ரிஃப்ளெக்டட் அண்ட் இட் ஸ்ட்ரைக்ஸ் த பர்சன்ஸ் ஐ, எம்ப்ளாயிஸோட ஐ பட்டுச்சுன்னா அவங்களுக்கு வந்து கரெக்டா அவங்களால பார்க்க முடியாது. விஷன் அஃபெக்ட் ஆகிறத பத்தி மீன் பண்ணல. ப்ராபப்ளி இப்போ நீங்க எங்கேயாவது வெளியில டிராவல் பண்றீங்க, ஒரு வண்டியோட லைட் வந்து உங்க கண்ணு பட்டோம்னா யூ ஸ்டார்ட் பிளிங்கிங், யூ நோ வாட் இஸ் ஹேப்பனிங் அட் தட் செகண்ட். அந்த மாதிரி ஆயிடும். அதனால ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா ஒரு 50 ரூபாய் கண்ணாடி வச்சுன்னு சொன்னாங்க. இப்படிதான் சொன்னார் அவர். ஒரு 50 ரூபாய் கண்ணாடியில விஷயமே முடிஞ்சிச்சு எங்களுக்கு. பட் தேர் வெரி கேர்ஃபுல் ஆஃப் தி அதர் கான்சிக்வன்சஸ். So that employee is happy, but what about the other department or other mission they are operating? So they are arranging such a way that அந்த மிரர் வந்து எப்படி பிளேஸ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, லைட்டா கேப் போட்டு, லைக் ஆப்போசிட் லைட் வரக்கூடாது வேற எங்கேயோ, இதை மட்டும் ப்ரொஜெக்ட் ஆகணும். அப்படி பண்ணிருக்காங்க. ஒன்லி தட் ஒன் ரிஃப்ளெக்ஷன் ஷுட் பி தேர். அது போதும், அது போட்டா போதும். ஸோ ஆக்சுவலி ஹி ஷோட் அஸ் அ வீடியோ, அதனால அவ்வளோ அது அட்ராக்டிவா இருந்தது. Let me continue. Principles, what are the things you have to follow? See, so far we are saying that it has to minimize the distance time. So in that case, we'll follow the principle called as principle of minimum time. This is applied both to men and materials. Next is sequencing, sequential arrangement. So you know the pattern of flow of the operation, then you arrange accordingly. Okay. Then how far you're going to utilize it. So every available space, because you're paying the rent. Okay. Area which you have paid or which you have owned for. Then compactness. You don't have like big thing at all. You have compact area. Okay. Every area இருக்கும் அந்த ஏரியா தான் போதும். You need not show as a big area which is going to create chaos only. எந்த நேரமும் அது தான் போதும். And principle of safety and satisfaction. So you just prioritize that one. And principle of flexibility. Probably least difficult ஓட மாட்ட முடியுமா இருக்கிறோம். And the principle of minimum investment. Because after all you're talking about capital investment only. So how far you can minimize this? Either your class types or methods of layout. So on which way you're going to focus. So we have so many principles. Each and every principle, see, it's not like I have to follow one principle. It's better if I follow all the principles together. But depending on my process, I have to select one method or one layout, or depending on the product, or sometimes my position will be fixed. Okay, you call this a static layout. So depending on that, I have to go for it. Or sometimes you call it cellular manufacturing or group technology. So combining, and last is hybrid. Will follow everything. There are equally other names. So I have listed all the alternate names over here now. So if you go inside the content, I'll have me only this as the heading. So process layout can also be called as functional layout, job shop layout, or batch production layout, which means based on the function, which is based on the process, you can have the layout. Based on your job shops, you can have a layout. If you are not doing as a jobs, if you're doing as batches, you can have the layout. Again, job is different and batch is different. So by this alternate names, you can understand even for job shop, this process layout is suitable. Even for batch production, this is suitable. Okay. Whereas if you go for product layout, we can have the alternate ways or for which it will be suitable means straight line processing. Okay, product or product பண்றதுக்கு step A, step B, step 3. Simple. Or you can say this is flow line, operations of flow, or serialized manufacturing. So that's what I'm saying. Step A process, step B process. Third is fixed position layout, or what is static? It will not move. So it will, we have to go over there and manufacture. And group of technology and combination. So let me go one by one. So first is process layout. What are the process involved? Probably I'm following milling process, welding process, grinding process, lathing, inspection, assembly. All these means all the milling machines will be put over in one area. Okay. In the milling machine, next time welding. All the welding machines will be in one area. Probably this will be called as milling department and welding department. இல்ல பில்டிங் மிஷின்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கிற இடத்துல வந்து அந்த பர்டிகுலர் லேயர் ஒதுக்கிடும் சம்டைம்ஸ் if I'm doing in thousands or mine is a very big manufacturing industry means milling machine will be a separate factory பத்தல இடம் I cannot have one corner for milling and have a separate factory. If you go for the steel industries and all the steel roll sheets வரும் இவ்வளோ பெருசா it will go for 20 by 30 feet. அது எப்படி நான் ஒரு மிஷின் ஒரு கார்னர்ல போட முடியும் one separate area itself will be given because to stock it itself you need so much of space. ஒரு 20 by 10 ரூம் இருந்தா மட்டும்தான் சாரி 20 by 30 ரூம் இருந்தா மட்டும்தான் உங்களால ஒரு மிஷினை வச்சு ஸ்டாக் பண்ண முடியும். See that மிஷின் அந்த ஸ்டீலோட ரோல் ஷீட்டே வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா இட்ஸ் ப்ராபப்லி இட்ஸ் நாட் ரைட்டிங் டு ஸ்கேல் இட்ஸ் 20 by 30. அப்போ மிஷின் இங்க இருக்கும் இதை நீங்க இந்த கட்டிங் ப்ராசஸ் எல்லாம் முடிச்சுட்டு இங்க ஸ்டாக் பண்ணிட்டே வரணும் அதுக்கு உங்களுக்கு பெரிய இடம் வேணும்னா நீங்க எங்க ஒரு ஓரமா தர போறீங்க யூ கேன் நாட் ஹேவ் இட் அஸ் corner place. So it may be sometimes the department to department will change. So all things process layer. So you combine all the process. If this process is about milling, there will be a milling machine put down. Because you're not focusing on the product, you're focusing on the process. Again, all the vending machines will be put down, all the grinding machines, lathing, then inspection, then assembly, then shipping and receiving, painting, shipping and receiving. Okay, all this will be done. So machines will be placed in another part of the factory or another building itself. So what are the types involved is either you can go for mission wise or you call as department wise. If you go for mission wise, drilling missions, you call it as drilling department. Turning missions, you call it turning department. Whereas if you go for department wise, in the department like the probably painting, we'll call it as painting department. Okay, so painting department is done to Amazon. It's not one single process like okay, machining department, all the machines will be pulled up over there. Probably if you have welding machine, you have milling machine, you have lathing machine, you will call that department name as machine department. Whereas if you go inside the department, you'll have separate thing. Okay. So now nature of machines used also matters here because if you are planning product basis means for this product I need separate machine. For another product I need a different machine. அப்போ வந்து general purpose machine இருந்தா மட்டும் இந்த layout வரும். If it is specific purpose means this won't be helpful. If I say I need a milling machine, okay, இந்த மில்லிங் மிஷின்ல எல்லாமே வரும் நீங்க ஸ்டீல் வாட்டர் பாட்டில் பண்ணாலும் பரவாயில்ல ஸ்டீல் ஷீட் பண்ணாலும் பரவாயில்ல எல்லாமே வரும் மில்லிங் பண்ண தான் நடக்கும் we are not focusing on product. Okay, so this is how it will be discussed. So work is allotted in such a way that no machines are idle. Yes, obviously machine idle is waste of cost. And loading schedules also has to be considered. Suitability, batch production or intermittent type of production, maybe for light and heavy engineering, make to order furniture, so whatever it is. Okay. Historical data is carries a functional idea of Taylor. So Taylor has designed this layout. That's why we know. Principles, it should be convenient for inspection, convenience for supervision. You should avoid long distance because each and every operations or each and every department will be utilized here. So you have to avoid this, what is that? Principle of minimum travel you have to follow. Okay, so இது வந்து இந்த travel principle of minimum travel. Then advantages are better utilized and fewer missions are required. Yes, that's a highlight. No, see, missions should not be kept idle. For probably I have product A, product B. This goes in milling mission, lathing mission, grinding mission, assembly mission, then painting mission. Again, there is another product B where it goes for milling, lathing, grinding, assembly, and this one means why I need to have two milling missions. Okay, this is what we call as product mix changes. Probably if this milling, maybe this milling running hours is for 1000 hours means if this A unit requires only 500 hours, okay, B unit requires 600 hours, then I can plan for two units, two milling machine. But if this B requires only 300 hours, அப்ப எதுக்கு நான் தனியா அப்ப இது department மாத்திடும். So in this case, I'm not focusing on product, I'm focusing on process. But what happens is for milling you can manage, for lathing you cannot manage. Up and down, A and B, let me change the color for convenience sake. After A and A starts over here, A goes over here, both goes single department. After that, they'll split over. அதுக்கு பிறகு தனியா போகும். இப்படி பண்ணா hybrid. Product and process put together. So processes for milling department alone, process layout. For other departments, I'll go for product layout. So other மாதிரி பண்ணா இது hybrid or combination layout also. So fewer missions are required. Flexibility of equipment and personnel is also required here. So if they are not flexible, means you cannot manage it. Because one person doing the mill usually will not allow to do that. One person involved in milling departments will not be doing grinding. But the process will be simple to understand. Lower investment, higher utilization of production facilities, is high flexibility in working distributions. The supervisor will get deep understanding because milling but then a minute because he's working only for milling department. If there is a small change in the noise of the machinery also, they will clearly find it. Okay. Actually, one of my cousin, he's working as an engineer in L&T. Okay, the you know the, what's that? The electric cycle money கொடுத்துருவாங்க. Like where you can step your foot alone and the handle will be there. It's not a cycle, wheel cycle money. The skating movements மட்டும் இருக்கும். அது கொடுத்துருவாங்கன்னா அதுல இருந்து ஃபுல் ஃபேக்டரி சுத்திட்டு வருவாரு. So he'll be saying one day he'll be traveling 30 kilometers with that cycle. So he cannot wait to walk and he's a chief engineer over there. So once when I had a colloquial talk with him, I asked him, எப்படி நீங்க ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணுவீங்க? It's very simple because அதே தானே பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. So much of sound and noise will be there. But if one mission is making trouble means with the help of small different noise, they'll easily locate which missions bring that. Okay, அவ்வளோ பெரிய ஃபேக்டரியில ஆல்மோஸ்ட் லைக் 10 or 12 kilometers தாண்டி இருக்குமா. The mission difference வச்சு they can easily identify this is the mission and there is a problem located in the easy identify. So they are experts in that. Okay, engineers, mechanical engineering, they are experts in that. Okay, limitations. If you are not following this, then your efficiency is reduced. If the efficiency is reduced, we have to go for backtracking. So probably this way we have to discuss. Backtracking you have to do because it reduces efficiency. So backtracking பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்கும் அதனால efficiency குறையும். Backtracking you have to check where something has happened wrong. பின்னாடி போய் பண்ணலாம். That's what I call as backtracking. And long movements also is reducing efficiency. Material cost also because you're not properly doing it. Inventory turnover is being reduced, probably that also because you're taking a long process time and lower productivity because number of setups will be there. See, one milling machine, I'm operating for product A, I'm operating for product B. Product A for 500 hours. Remaining for 300 hours, I have to set up for product B. And the machine setup time, probably there will be a small equipment change or computer level, maximum the CAD process on the chip, computer aided design process. The detailings with the CAD computer feed பண்ணுவாங்க data. Computer feed பண்ணும்போது it will work for another 500 hours. But for machine play, I need only 300 hours. அப்போ remaining 200 hours will be waste. Else, I need to buy a better machinery. Probably 500 hours and 300 hours run ஆகணும்னா அந்த 300 hours ரன் ஆகுற மாதிரி நான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ண மாதிரி மிஷின் வாங்கினா அது காஸ்ட்லி. இப்போ என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? காஸ்ட் பண்ணுவீங்களா மிஷின்? So that's a major drawback. There are limitations தானே. Because of the number of setups you have, because you have to shift from this one to that one. Even though it's a general purpose machine, it is not helpful now. Why do you need to waste 200 hours? So I better buy machine. let it be useful for aids. Upon the complete product layout level. Okay. And space and capital also are important. Shall I continue? Product layout. So missions are located according to the processing sequence. They are arranged in one line depending on the sequence of operations. So it will go step by step for all for product A, all for product B. Raw material to finished goods. Yes, this is a beautiful point here. Okay, உள்ள போட்டா எல்லாமே முடிச்சுட்டு வெளியே வந்துரும். Okay, you need not make any process. So first mission you feed the raw material, and the last mission will give you the finished goods. Okay, so it sometimes you can talk about partly finished goods also, finished goods also. Probably sugar mills, it is not partly finished goods also. So special purpose missions also will be used because we are talking only about the product. So on the product தேவையான மட்டும் தான் use பண்ணணும். If there are more than one line of production, there are as many lines of mission. This is a major drawback only. Again, probably I am producing product B. There will be different lines of production. For all this one, I'll be having a milling machine. For this one, also milling machine. For this one, there will be as many lines of mission. Okay, depending on the lines of production. Probably if you go for talking automobile industry and all, they talk about the lines of production. ஏன்னா ஒரு லைன் ப்ரொடக்ஷன்ல மேனுஃபேக்சரிங் பத்தாது அவங்களுக்கு they are managing so number of auto cars in a day அப்போ வந்து they need to have 10 lines of production. Likewise if you go for garments making அதாவது cloth making the spindles சொல்லுவாங்க நூல் செட்டு அந்த நூல் செட்டு வந்து அவ்வளவு லைன்ஸ் ஆஃப் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் இருக்கும் ஏன்னா ஒரு லைன் ஆஃப் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் நீங்க எப்போ முடிப்பீங்க everybody are ordering in rows and rows of cloth. You cannot fix one line of production. There will be multiple lines of production. And the spindles, அவங்க அந்த layers எல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா they will talk in how many spindles you manufacture. Yarns சொல்லுவாங்க. Yarnsனா அந்த நூல் செட் இருக்குல்ல. If you're aware of this sewing and stitching and all, the நூல் வாங்குவாங்க. நூல் செட் எல்லாம் வாங்குவாங்க. Spindles and என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க yarns சொல்லுவாங்க. அது வந்து அந்த நூல் செட் இருக்கும். இது வந்து எத்தனை மிஷின்ல ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ண முடியும் தட்ஸ் லைன் ஆஃப் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் தெரியும். Okay. It's about lines of production. Suitability, if one of the more products is large, obviously you have to go for efficient flow of material and lowest cost is obviously this is your main thing, then you have to plan for. So for chemical, paper, sugar and all, you will plan this before. Principles, all the machine tools or other types must be placed at that point. Is one single process. All the operations, including assembly, testing, packing, should be included in that line itself. You cannot deviate. Okay, this is a single line of production. Materials may be fed where they are required. Yeah, sometimes it happens. Probably this is the line of my production. Sometimes the materials may be required over here. Sometimes the materials may be required over here only. Okay, and the process of the drilling machine direct probably இங்க ஒரு 1000 units feed பண்றேன். I can feed the remaining 1000 or 1500 units over here. This is the provisions will be provided in such a way. Okay, அதுக்கு ஏத்த மாதிரி இடம் எல்லாம் ஸ்பேஸ் எல்லாமே no crossing of two lines of operation. Okay, so if this is one line. This is one line. Okay, you cannot have another line going this way. Okay, inspection வந்து கம்மியா தானே எடுக்குது. அதனால வந்து இங்க cross ஆயிட்டு வரட்டும். No, you cannot do that. If you have inspection department separately or quality check department separately, you need to have another quality check department also, even though it's additional. That's one drawback, right? தேவையில்லாம நான் spend பண்ணணும். Okay. Or you have to strategically coin that one. Okay. Advantages. One important or highlighted on it will be smooth and there will be a logical flow in lines. In-process inventory will be less. அதுக்கு என்ன தேவையோ அது மட்டும் நான் யூஸ் பண்ண போறேன். Throughput time also will be less. Minimum material handling cost, simplified production, everything will be possible. Simplified production, simplified planning, simplified control system will be less space is occupied by work transit. Yeah, beautiful point. Say I will not transit from one place to another place. It's a sequence of operation going in a very smooth manner. Okay, and for temporary storage also. And reduce material handling cost and perfect line balancing. Okay. Probably we'll not talk about bottlenecks and idle capacity or all. We might be eliminating all these. Okay. Manufacturing cycles will be short because there will be no uninterrupted flow of materials. Small amount of working processing will be there, and unskilled workers can learn. Yeah, beautiful. It's also so if the workers are unskilled workers, they will be trained properly in such a way they can manage everything and they can learn it. There are some limitations. Yes, the first limitation is a very big limitation. If there is a breakdown of one machinery, then it causes the full stoppage of machines in the downstream. Obviously, that line of productions becomes idle. ஒரு machine நாளா. Okay. Change of product design Yes, when you change the product design, you have to make a major alteration because one small design change or a straight cut badala curve வருது. Probably you're planning for a dining table and there is no straight one like rectangle லாம் இல்ல. கொஞ்சம் like curve வருது edgesல. Then you have to design accordingly. You need to have one more process for curve, giving that curve. Okay. The line output is decided by the bottleneck machine. Comparatively high investment because for each line of production you need each machine. Okay, so again you are going to make extra investment and lack of flexibility. If you change a product, you have to modify the facilities. Else you cannot do it. Can you go to here, please? Yes. Third one, fixed position layout. This is suitable for locomotives, ships, boiler plants, aircrafts, and generators like where you take all the materials, labor, equipment, everything to that project processing area. And இதுல என்ன ஒரு பெரிய advantage na delivery cost இல்ல. Okay. Only thing is, instead of taking the material, labor, and equipment to the factory, you're taking to the direct project areas. Okay. So the material or the major components remains fixed in the uh, fixed location. Okay. Tools, machineries, men, see material here is different and other material is different. Okay. Are brought to this location and it is cost effective. So this is suitable for manufacturing and assembling heavy products. Okay. So when we talk about fixed demolition. Advantages, yes, helps in job enlargement. Probably it will upgrade that. Yeah, this is a beautiful point. Shipbuilding, probably if you go for bridge construction also, or any commercial constructions. Uh, See, when you talk about construction, a person constructing a commercial building will have a different knowledge, whereas a person constructing a commercial society. Society means consisting of 200 or 300 flats. கமர்ஷியல் பில்டிங்னா 4 வால்ஸ் போட்டா போதும். ஏற்கனவே டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணிருப்பேன். 4 வால்ஸ் போட்டா போதும். உள்ள எல்லாமே இன்டீரியர் டெக்கரேஷன். Whereas if you go for residential, no, you have to be very keen on where the bedroom has to be placed, where the kitchen has to be placed, how the plumbing has to be done. Each and everything will be taken care of. But this is not going to happen in the office commercial areas, office buildings and commercial areas. So they will have a job enlargement skills. Okay. The workers identify themselves with a product in which they take interest and pride in future. Greater flexibility and layout in capital investment is also good. We'll go for group technology. Actually, when we talk about there are some production units, but they vary in batch sizes or sequence of operations. Let me go like this. We were talking about this Nilkamal chairs. Nilkamal plastic chairs. ஒரு mold ready பண்ணிடுவாங்க. That mold will be making some 1 lakh number of units. Okay. That mold will be given to all the families. They'll make a wheel commercials பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Like high backrest will be there sometimes. Sometimes the armrest will be somewhat lengthier, wider இருக்கும். இதே வந்து லைக் வெட்டிங் ஹால் எல்லாம் போனீங்கன்னா ஆம்ரெஸ்டே இருக்காது. பிகாஸ் யூ நீட் டு ஆக்குபை த ஸ்பேஸ். இந்த வெட்டிங் ரிசப்ஷன் ஹால் எல்லாம் வந்து எப்படி ரெண்ட் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா 1000 சீட்டிங் கெப்பாசிட்டி. டைனிங் கெப்பாசிட்டி எவ்வளோ 500 like 200 டைனிங் கெப்பாசிட்டி மீன்ஸ் they don't have like cushioned chairs and all over there. Okay. So what they do is they go for armless chairs. அப்போ என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா பேசிக்கா ஒரு மாடல் இருக்கும். அந்த மாடல் with that one model we can make 1 lakh number of units. How many factories are there in India? For example, 10 factories. I have not done any case studies on e-commerce. Just so knowledge தான். ஒரு 10 factories இந்தியால இருக்குன்னா இந்த 10 factories 10 mold ரெடி பண்ணுவாங்க. அப்போ how many chairs they are going to manufacture? 10 lakh number of chairs. It is color coating and what type of materials. It should be sturdy like because I'm going to buy. It is a large investment. I'm going to buy 1,000 chairs. One of the major investment. அப்போ sturdy இருக்கணும், எவ்வளவு தூரம் இருக்கணும். So everything has to be checked. So it goes in batch sizes. Why we say group technology is helpful in this case means when we talk about batch, for each and every batch, the design or the product, everything will get varied. Okay, even the sequence of operations sometimes get varied. Okay, so for this we need to have group technology. So which means it's completely referring to the flexibility of the manufacturing system. So whenever I change the batch size, it should be flexible. So for this mold, it's not like I'm going to make 1 lakh units at a stretch. அது மார்க்கெட்ல போகணும்ல நான் பாட்டுக்கு 1 lakh பண்ணி என்ன பண்றது? So I might be doing 100, then some 500, then some 100, then some 1000. So I'll be getting the batch sizes. Okay. How it is used means we'll use both process and pure product layout. is suitably for variety of parts in small batches and economies of flow line. So we take the help of both. Okay. So this is the one utilized. Then component standardization and rationalization is a main advantage. We can rely on the estimate, effective operation, mission operation, and productivity will be there. Customer service also will be helpful. Okay, because we are merging both. Okay, what do you mean by customer services? What customer says that this product may have a beautiful aesthetic look. அப்ப அதுக்கேத்த மாதிரி நான் மாத்திக்கலாம். That will be helpful. Okay, so customer service will be provided in a better way and decreases the paperwork because it's a sequence of operation only. For this batch, we are doing this. So other note பண்ணா போதும். So we never go in detail. Okay. And work in progress and work movement also can be easily identified and overall cost also can be decreased. Whereas anyway we have highlights, but there are some limitations. Dissimilar product mix may not have meaningful self-formation. Dissimilar product. If I'm talking about product A, if I'm talking about product B, I'm going to merge both. So in this case, I can highlight this one, but product A is a different product, product B is a different product. So this one, it will not be helpful. Fifth one, combination layout. So both process and product layout put together takes the advantages of both the layouts is possible when the item is made in different types and sizes, and usually the products manufactured should be similar and should not be complex, somewhat similar in nature. Probably if I talk about goodnight liquidators, okay, there is no difference there. No? Probably you might have sensed this one. The purple lavender color flavor, neem flavor in the liquidator, lavender flavor and neem flavor. All of the process are same. At one point of the last process, the essence they add, essence or the fragrance they add will be differing all along. Upon the display, it will be helpful. Again, so because of one, see, that's why the products are similar but not complex. Okay, if there is a one change in the operation, that change is not going to affect the full process. In that sense, it's okay. Okay. Uh, so, so this is about the structure. Okay, this is forging, hammer, heat treatment, hobbing machine, and gear finishing machine, and everything will go to the stock. See this one, hobbing machine. Sorry, heat treatment furnace. You just have only two, not necessarily have many. Whereas we go for forging hammer or this one, we have four. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. But whereas if you go for hobbing machine, here is one, here is one, here is one, but we need one addition. Okay. In the other one addition, they will be the other rendezvous. That's a highlight here. So we should not cost of the same. So layout for service facility. You have to bring customers and service together. This is a very main highlight. Probably if you visit some restaurants, they'll be only self-service. ரொம்ப கடுப்பா இருக்கும் sometimes. Sometimes because you feel like eating two dosas. This is quite practical. ஒரு தோசை சாப்பிட்டு கை கழுவிட்டு இன்னொரு தோசை போகும். Self-service is not sometimes suitable. First thing. Sometimes it happens where they provide only packing, like not dining. They had to take the parcel and go. So if I cannot manage the customers or if I cannot provide proper service to the customers, then the service facility will not be because the facility I cannot provide, I will not need it. ஒன்னும் லேபரர்ஸ் கிடைக்கல இல்லைன்னா வந்து அந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டி கொடுக்கறதுக்கு இடம் இல்லை இந்த ஷார்ட் இடத்துல எவ்வளவு ரன் பண்ண முடியும் தட்ஸ் a major thing. So what should the layout provide? It should provide quick access to the facilities. Probably if I talk again for restaurants or if I talk about hospitals or education institutions, the facility should be provided that way. Restrooms எங்க இருக்கும்? Again, for if you go talk about education institutions, you cannot have toilet everywhere. Okay, there is one specific way where you can have the toilet. Okay, likewise, hospitals. Hospitals வந்து கட்டமா டாய்லெட்ஸ் இருக்கணும் and not at one particular point. நிறைய இடத்துல இருந்தா இன்னும் better. But that's not suitable for education institutions. For medical medicines, medical related buildings is totally different. For this one, it's totally okay. And large and well organized and aptly lighted parking areas. You know, this is a very big highlight because customers will come in cars or other vehicles. They should have ample area of parking, and if parking is hospital. Okay, well designed walkway should be there. This is also a big highlight. Okay, and like depending on the degree of customer contact, you have to definitely if you go for educational institutions, we are not going to go classroom to classroom. So classroom to classroom, that point of contact will be the main reception of this. Whereas if you go for hospitals, there will be different departments. One is for bone and one is for dental and other different departments. Each and every, for if you take Apollo and big hospitals like that, we need to have separate reception areas for each and everything. ஏன்னா ஒரு டவுட் கேட்டா இன்னொரு டவுட் தெரியாது. Okay. I have ever wondered. அங்க இருக்கிற நர்ஸுக்கு எல்லாம் கிட்டத்தட்ட டாக்டர் தெரிஞ்ச மாதிரி தெரியும். திருப்பி ஆசை எவ்வளவு கொஸ்டின்ஸ் கேட்கும்போது டாக்டர் மாதிரி இருக்கிறாங்களே ஆல்மோஸ்ட் எல்லா டீடைல்ஸும் அவங்களே ஃபில் பண்ணி எழுதிடுவாங்க. ஓகே. So design around the customer receiving and servicing function, like banks also is a very good example. And design around the technologies and the physical materials and production, probably laboratory separate areas, scan areas, ultrasound separate areas, hospitals. Other facilities with respect to plant layout, arrangement for other facilities also has to be considered. Probably we are especially talking about the product needs. There should be an inspection facility. Probably you have to give facilities for employee. If you talk about factories act, proper restroom இருக்கணும் the employee facility, proper rest area இருக்கணும், drying the clothes area இருக்கணும், where I'm going to put my clothes, like rack money provide பண்ணிருக்கணும். So many things, storage facility also has to be provided. So the requirements depends on the nature of the product. Okay, not you cannot say particular product will have particular facilities and all. Most of the allied facilities will be helpful always. Okay, so that has to be provided mandated. Yes, that's about this topic. Please can please go to 2.4 on resource aggregate planning. What are the resources required? And I'm talking about not one single resource, all the resources put together. So resource aggregate planning. How you define resource aggregate planning is you're planning the quantity and timing of output. How the demand is there, the demand on facilities and available capacities in aggregate quantities. So quantity, timing, everything put together. So probably if we talk about automobile manufacturing, it is selling 1,000 vehicles per year. Please highlight when we talk about production, we say that it's produced per day. Okay. But here they mention as selling 1,000 vehicles per year. They're not talking about production, they're talking about selling. Please highlight, okay? That's the difference. Usually, ஒரு ஃபேக்டரியோட ப்ரொடக்ஷன் கெப்பாசிட்டி பத்தி பேசும்போது per day, especially automobile industry, per day க்கு பேசுவாங்க. Number of cars manufactured or produced. But when we talk about selling, we talk about per year. Probably if you come for this closer of this academic year, not academic, calendar year, December வரும்போது பாருங்களேன், Mahindra and Mahindra, how many cars sold out? Sold out. Tata and Tata, how many sold out? இப்படிதான் பேசுவாங்க. Per year, selling will be tough. Why we talk about selling per year means the model will be changed. 2024 model, how many sold out? 2025 model, how many sold out? அதனால இந்த டிசம்பர் கிறிஸ்மஸ் டைம்ல வரும்போது ஸ்லாஷ் ரேட்ல டிஸ்கவுண்ட் தராங்க. Because if it is one day over, that is December 31st to Jan 1st, the model is older. So that's why they mention this as number of vehicles sold per year. Okay. A paint industry will be talking liters of paint. So they'll not mention as this color or that color or this variant. No, they'll not talk in that way. They usually mention as paint only. Likewise, they usually mention as vehicles only. They'll not go for variant, which means they talk in aggregate quantities. Okay. So note measured without regard to the product mix. Yes, you're not talking about the variant. Model of the cars or color of the paints will not be given preference. When we talk about the period, usually the period will be 3 to 18 months. There will be a link between short term and long term planning. Okay, this is what you call as the intermediate planning range. Okay, we'll not talk less than 3 months, we'll not talk more than 18 months. So in between this 3 to 18 months is what you call as the intermediate. See, எப்பவுமே the time period பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் short term, long term, medium or intermediate term. Case to case it will differ. Under taxation, you treat it differently. For 1 year, taxation under the taxation rules, for 1 year is short term, more than 1 year is long term. Even for asset classification, 1 year that is utilized for more than a year, you treat as an asset. For each and every case, when you talk about the time horizon, you have to be very careful. Here, the time horizon is probably if I go for the timeline, 3 months, 18 months, this is called as short term, this is called as long term, and this in between period is called as intermediate term. Okay. So each and every case will be differing. And depending on the depending on the time horizon, you have to differently define the strategies. For sales order also it will be different. Okay. Steps in aggregate planning. So you develop the overall logical, overall unit, how you're going to measure the output, probably in paint most of the time, litters. Sometimes they go for gallons of paint, even for oil also. Okay, and occupied in hotel. So for hotel, we say number of room days. Okay, then focus the demand and identify the measure relevant first. Okay, so benefits increase the range of alternatives. How far the inventory is going to be used and how far it's going to be absorbed because the demands will be fluctuating. The demand fluctuate ஆகிற மாதிரி உங்களால வந்து inventory grab பண்ண முடியுமா? That's what absorption will be fluctuations. Okay, which means probably if I put it in normal words, how far you're flexible enough to adapt to the fluctuation. How far you're flexible enough. Okay, demand 1000 வந்து உங்களால 1000 shift ஆக முடியுமா? Inventory வச்சு because we're talking about aggregate, resource aggregate. Okay, so whether you are in a capable to provide that much of inventory. You may ask me, ma'am, how I am capable, ma'am? Only my supplier should be capable. It's not that way. If you are ready to pay more to the supplier, definitely he'll supply to you only. Okay, a supplier will be having two clients, A and B, and just imagine your A client. Okay, if you are paying anything extra, and definitely the supplier is going to supply to you only, even during the fluctuation period, variation of demand you can manage. Okay, so usually what we do is we forecast this over for next 6 months to 12 months. Okay. Immediate பண்ண முடியாது. So 6 to 12. And you fairly maintain a stable workforce. ஏன்னா resource தான் labor வேணும் நமக்கு. Nature is actually trivial, which means depending on the demand stability, you have to check how far the resources, products and services will be utilized, and you have to demand forecast how it's going to be converted to resource equipments and the time horizon, and whether you're going to do it overtime or undertime. If the demand is high, you have to plan for overtime working. There is no demand or demand is less and already have a stock, then you go for under time. So demand fluctuates. This is a big challenge. And when you talk about the cost, you have to check about the nature. What are the associated factors you have? See, I'm not going line by line. Okay, this is a normal costing area. Okay, associated cost factors like overtime, hiring, excess inventories, and all. And you have to check if there is a varying workforce. How would the cost be associated? Because you have to hire them, train them. Sometimes layoff costs. You're going for under demand absorption. அப்போ வந்து ஏற்கனவே ஸ்டாக் இருக்கு அண்டர் டிமாண்ட்லயும் இருக்கு அப்போ சம்டைம்ஸ் வந்து நீங்க லே ஆஃப் பண்ணி தான் work இல்லைன்னு அர்த்தம் உங்களுக்கு ஓகே அண்ட் ஓவர் டைம் ஆர் அக்செப்டிங் ஐடியல் டிமாண்ட்ஸ் யூ ஹேவ் டு ஃபிக்ஸ் வேஜ் பே ஓடி ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணணும் ஓகே நான் ப்ரொடக்டிவ் டைம் காஸ்ட் ஆல்சோ வில் பி சம்டைம்ஸ் ஓவர் தேர் ஓகே then varying inventory levels, carrying cost and storage cost will be affected. Accepting back orders, stock out cost or lost orders will be there. Subcontracting work to others, higher labor and material cost will be there. Changing the use of the existing facility probably delayed in advance, else fixed cost may be high. Because the existing capacity you might be working, actually that may be for 1000, but you may be working only for 800 means the fixed cost is spread over for 800 units only, not for 1000. அப்போ வந்து என்ன ஆகும்னா fixed cost higher ஆயிடும். That's why we usually go for economies of scale, higher quantity of manufacturing. Properties, one will check with unit. So overall unit of measuring, like for automobile, we take 1000 vehicles per year. This is a unit of measuring per year. For paint industry, usually we measure liters, sometimes in gallons. It depends on. So it's acceptable forecast and what method you're going to use it for identifying the cost and all. And alternatives, if available, you have to check whether that alternatives will be suitable for my objective of the organization. If it's not suitable, it's why you need to adopt it. Okay, so not necessary. And what are the fixed facilities available to carry out that checklist? We'll go for types of strategies. What you can do here is how the strategy can be defined here is I will try to have stability in my workforce. Even though there is a variation in the utilization rate, I'll try to have the stability in the workforce. Stable workforce இருந்தாலே நிறைய விஷயம் வந்து நம்மளால மேனேஜ் பண்ண முடியும். Then part-time workers, sometimes it happens. Seasonal time I'm going to I have to meet out that extra demand. So at that time, let me have part-time workers. Okay. Now the problem is who is going to be that part-time workers? Probably if you go for some showrooms and all, during the evening times only we need the workers. During the daytime we don't want them. So there will be some students or homemakers. Homemakers especially they are free in the evening, morning. Students they can come in the evening. Yes, so we can utilize them. Okay. So especially, yeah, please make a note of this first point. Part-time workers, when you talk about part-time workers for unskilled jobs, then it's fine. For skilled jobs, not we cannot because we cannot train them. They are coming only for part-time. Probably they might be coming only for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. We cannot train them and we will utilize them. Other time will. Okay. Advantage is less costly than full-time workers and they'll be more flexible because working hours நம்ம இது கொடுத்தா போதும் பண்ணிக்கலாம். And back ordering. Probably if the customer is willing to wait for a product and service, just wait, we wait. Probably if there is a model variant introduced with Mahindra and Mahindra, and they say that bookings are open. But when you'll get it, 10 வருஷம் ஆகும். No customer will wait. Bookings are open. You'll get in another 20 days. Yes, we'll wait. Back ordering now, will take the order, then we'll manufacture. Okay, so probably Mahindra and Mahindra's Batman series. They started with 300. 300 is completely booked. Now they're introducing another 350. Around 350 nanikra. Because it crossed some 650 or 670. So around some 350. So they want to make sure that whether this 300 is being captured in the market. Yes, this 300 is captured. Now we'll go for another. Double pouring, double pouring. So like 120% high, right? 300 இருக்கு 350 இருக்கு 130 121% எக்ஸ்ட்ரா இந்த ஹைட் இருக்கு அப்போ 120% எக்ஸ்ட்ரா மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்றாலும் கஸ்டமர்ஸ் டிமாண்ட் they are asking for and everything is good. Okay, இதுக்கு மேல அவங்க ஸ்டெப்ஸ் எடுக்க மாட்டாங்க because no time. Okay. So it's a viable alternative only the customer is willing to wait for the product and service. If they are not willing, means அவங்க என்ன நினைப்பாங்க நீ இல்லைன்னா டாடா கிட்ட போறேன்னு சொன்னாங்கன்னா காலி மஹிந்திரா. So they have to be very ready for that. Okay. So back ordering. Then level of production, increase the demand or production, you just make it variable. Okay. So usually we go with the average demand. So we'll fix up the average demand and we'll make it. Okay. So we use the inventory to observe variations and surplus production is stored as inventory during times of low demand. Then we utilize accordingly. Okay, high demand இருக்கும்போது they use பண்ணிக்கலாம் அந்த மாதிரி. Then you chase the demand. Yes, demand இங்க போகுது. Yes, manufacture பண்ணுங்க. Demand குறையுது, manufacture குறையுது. Okay, இன்னும் குறையுது, இன்னும் குறைச்சிடுங்க. Actually, what's the drawback is employees will be sent home. Okay, what do you do? At one point of time, if it is becoming more lower, you have to, because in the curve, it will be traveling in the same slope. Okay, hike ஆகுது, hike ஆகும். Slow ஆகுது, slow ஆகும். Okay. Actually, this is always goodness or not always good, depending on stability of the workforce you have designed. So this is one type of a strategy. If you talk about stability, workforce might have a clash. So it may not be useful always. Okay. So I'm not going line by line. We can manage. So non-applicability, if the skilled labor is scarce, then it's not helpful. That's what I'm talking about, the stability of the workforce. Okay. And maintaining the resources for high demand levels. Okay, this is not normal. Next heading, overtime or undertime strategy. This also we have discussed. So overtime we go for paying the premium. Undertime we have to go for layoff. Layoff cost. Overtime work பண்ணாலும் காசு கொடுக்கலாம். Layoff is திடீர்னு வந்து இன்னைக்கு இதுல சைன் பண்ண வராங்க ஒர்க் இருக்கணும்ட்டு and you say there is no job, they will not just go away home because உங்களை ரிலே பண்ணி வந்திருக்காங்க. You have to pay them the cost. Okay, if they work means how much you're going to pay. So that's what you call as layoff cost. Layoff cost இருக்கும் and OT means premium cost payment. Usually this double the wages. If they work on Sundays, it's double the wages. So there are some disadvantages also. Overtime alone may not be sufficient to meet the peak demand. Okay, so that's maybe the disadvantage. So sometimes you have to go for subcontracting. Third party reliability and all should be there. And maybe enjoyed by less efficient and tired workers. Because they work and work means sometimes it won't be helpful. So seventh one, we go for subcontracting or outsourcing. Probably it's actually a feasible alternative only if the supply is reliable. Probably quality wise will not do any problem. Okay, நம்ம பண்ண என்ன குவாலிட்டி இருக்கும் நிறைய பேர் எதாவது பண்ணுவாங்க நான் பண்ண குவாலிட்டி இருக்கு நான் கான்ட்ராக்டிங் கொடுத்த குவாலிட்டி இல்லைன்னா என் லேபர் ஸ்பாயில் ஆகும் பிகாஸ் மை லேபர் இஸ் கோயிங் டு பி தேர். So many think about this quality issue. Second one, timely delivery is very important for the customer point of view. Customer should get satisfied first time delivery. Timeliness in delivery definitely it's not be helpful. So quality and time for supply should be very major important factors to be considered. Yes, when the demand of final product exceeds expectation and required components are made to be ready, obviously you have to go for outsourcing. I have to go for outsourcing. Especially when we go for automobile industry. All the products are outsourced. எல்லாமே இடத்துல அசம்பிளி ஆயிட்டு மஹிந்திரா லேபிளோட So everything outsource. Okay, all some small allied factors will be there. Which இந்த part வந்து steering deal the தனியா பண்ணுவாங்க, steering தனியா பண்ணுவாங்க, dashboard தனியா. Okay, disadvantages reduction of profit because I'm sharing the profit. It's not that like all in one factory like that. Okay, loss of control over production. I cannot take over their control. Probably sometimes subcontracting வந்து நம்ம control எடுத்துக்கலாம். It depends on long lead times because I have to give them time to place the order and do it. And potential subcontractor may become a future competitor. It's a beautiful point of ஏன் நம்மளே பண்ணக்கூடாது நினைச்சா கோவிந்தாதான். Okay, that's a very big drawback here. And pure strategy. See, we have discussed seven alternatives, seven strategies. If I use only one to meet the demand, it's pure. Mixed means two or okay. So I'm not going line by line. Aggregate planning guidelines. So what are the things you have to follow? You have to determine what is your corporate policy following. Because if you have the list of controllable variables, இதெல்லாமே பேஸ் பண்ணி உங்க corporate policy என்ன depending on that you have to do. Then you have to do a good forecast. If the forecast is not a reliable one, then it's not going to be helpful. Planning proper units of capacity, maintain a stable workforce. You properly need to have proper control over inventories and flexibility to change also. You should be flexible enough to change and respond to demand in a controllable manner. நல்ல பீக்ல போகுதுங்கிறதுக்காக ஓகே இப்படிதான் பீக்ல தான் போகுது இன்னும் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா ப்ரொடியூஸ் பண்ணிடணும்னு பண்ண முடியாது. Because future demand has to be properly forecasted, then only can do it. And evaluate the planning. Okay, already பண்ணிட்டோம் அவ்வளவுதான் சொல்ல முடியாது. You have to properly evaluate and you have to do it in regular basis. Okay, probably weekly or monthly, depends. Other miscellaneous factors which influence the choice is demand distribution. How you distribute the demand. சிட்டிஸ்ல வந்து டிமாண்டை கவர் பண்ணலாமா, 3 tiers கவர் பண்ணலாமா, இல்லை நார்மல் டவுன்ஸ்ல கவர் பண்ணலாமா, that has to be checked. Competitive position has to be checked and what's the cost structure of the firm. One aggregate planning strategy is not always preferable to another. இதுக்கு பதிலா அதுன்னு பண்றது தப்பு. That's what we mean here. Okay, now on the I will go for subcontracting. Subcontracting equal for அப்படி இல்ல. You are fixing to one, you are fixing to one because that is more reliable search பண்ணிருப்பீங்க. இந்த ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜில மட்டும் இது பண்ணிக்கலாம் அதுவும் பண்ணிக்கலாங்கிறது வராது. Okay, you have to fix this is the planning you are going to do. So the second one is a very beautiful point. And mixed strategy is sometimes most economical. Even though it's mixed, you have to make it as one single point of view. அதுக்குள்ளதான் நீங்க execute பண்ணணும். Then limitless alternatives. Probably some practical situation that might be changing. அதான் நம்ம எஸ்எம்ல படிக்கலாம். Environment is dynamic and you adopt to the environment. So you have crafted the strategy, you adopt to the environment. If the change is needed, review and take control. அதுதான் இங்க மீன் பண்றாங்க. It should be validated by trial and error. Sometimes it happens, you cannot fix one and go with it. You have to go for trial and error. Okay. 2.5 called as MRP. We have MRP1 and MRP2. The whole concept of MRP is dealing with material requirement plan. So that's why we name this as MRP1. You please try to understand the difference between the topic 2.4 and 2.5. When we were talking about 2.4, we said that is resource aggregate planning. Here it is material requirement planning. When we talk about resource, we are talking about all the resources, even the place, facilities, material, men, labor, everything. But whereas if you focus on MRP, because we are talking about production, whether it's production of goods or providing services, whatever it is, we need to talk about the material. Okay, so it's highly invited with material is a main component. So material based பண்ணி customers உங்ககிட்ட வாங்குறாங்க. So material requirement planning is one big area here. You probably might have done this EBQ model and all right. So that's all highlighted. Economic order quantity. So it's related with ordering costs and storage cost. This topic along with 2.7. 2.7, I think economic batch quantity. What's the difference between economic order quantity and economic batch quantity? It's done in batch wise. That's why we call it. Because here we talk about production and manufacturing. We talk job wise or batch wise. So in that sense, we have to go for economic batch quantities. So how we define MRP here is material requirement planning. So methodology is for planning and production of assembled products. Okay. Probably you're going to determine the quantity and timing for the acquisition of dependent demand items. Please highlight. Raw material பத்தி பேசலாம். Okay, it's not talking about raw material. My main assembly is depending on the dependent items, how the dependent items should be received and how much to be received. Okay, so it's not completely talking about raw material. Okay, even for this concept, we'll be talking about ordering costs and other things, and everything will be same. So what we do is we go for a computerized system. We have to determine the demand for component items. For component items, we have to maintain the track record because we need to know when we need it. Okay, and generate work orders and purchase orders to check whether I'm going to make in-house, that is generate, or that is make or buy. Okay. Objective is why you have to go for this planning is you can reduce the inventory. Ultimately, you're going to reduce the storage cost. Okay. Reduction in manufacturing and delivery lead times also may be reduced. So if you properly plan, we order around 20 days out. So you need to know when you have to order and when you have to receive. Okay. And realistic delivery commitment should be there and increase the efficiency. Okay. Because you are going to properly plan it, and because of this proper planning, you can avoid storage costs, you can avoid the storage delays and everything. Okay. Objective to ensure that the material is available when needed. So why NRP? We need to check what is needed, how much is needed, and when it is needed. So to find out the answers for these questions, we are developing this planning. So the main functions are defined as three. One is order planning and control. One is priority. A beautiful one. எதுக்கு முதல்ல வாங்கணும்னு தெரியணும்ல எல்லா மெட்டீரியலும் நேரம் ஸ்டோர் பண்ணது வேஸ்ட் விச் ஒன் ஹாஸ் டு பி given more priority and planning capacity requirement also depends because depending on your business plan you have to plan. And what is the role here is we determine which component items are needed and scheduling them to be ready at that time, no earlier or no later. This is not exactly called as just in time inventory. ஏன்னா just in time just in time டேரக்டா மிஷின்ல லோட் ஆகுது. இது மிஷின்ல லோட் ஆகணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. எப்போ தேவையா அதை கொண்டு வந்துட்டு அது பிறகு ஃபீட் பண்ணலாம். So you should not get confused with just in time. So you'll have a master schedule. Master schedule means for this product, we need this number of units. So that's what we call as master schedule. And bills of materials, the full component. If this related with food related means the ingredients what we call. So this is bills of ultimately you'll get the output. So what you call this as master schedule. It's called as master schedule or also called as master production schedule. It designs the quantity and completion time of an assembled product. Okay. It will be translated into time phase requirements, how much you need and when it is needed and all. So it's completely talking about quantity and completion time. It will state which end items are to be produced, when they are needed, and in what quantities. Whereas if you go for the second heading, bills of materials, what type of materials and assemblies and sub-assemblies and parts and raw materials. So what area we'll talk about raw material also. You know, raw material market finished goods only naane panrana. I am not depending on the component items. Okay, especially this MRP is planning on component items. But என்னோட இதுல வந்து காம்பனன்ட் பத்தின பேச்சே இல்ல ரா மெட்டீரியல் தான் மெயின் மெட்டீரியல் தான் ஐ டாக் அபௌட் த ரா மெட்டீரியல் சார் ஓகே அண்ட் தட் ஆர் நீடட் டு ப்ரொடியூஸ் 1 யூனிட் ஆஃப் எண்ட் ஐட்டம் ப்ளீஸ் ஹைலைட் பில் ஆஃப் மெட்டீரியல் மீன்ஸ் 1 யூனிட் பண்றதுக்கு எவ்வளவு தேவை யூ ஆர் கோயிங் டு குக் 1 pot ஆஃப் பிரியாணி எவ்வளவு வேணும் you see that's what you call as documentation okay if you're going to cook 1 pot of biryani now if you're going to cook 2 pots of biryani just double that ingredient if you're going to cook 3 pots so it depends on so 1 unit of end item output manufacture பண்றதுக்கு என்னென்ன வேணும் so likewise limiting this will be done for each type of the finished product which means if you're manufacturing product A the bill of material will be for product A in short we call it as BOM okay எல்லா காஸ்ட் அக்கௌண்ட்டும் தெரியும் BOM ல bills of material if you have product A, B, C, D, E, then each and every type of the finished product, these are all finished products I'm naming. So for each and every product, there will be bills of material, which means what are the assemblies, what is the process used, there will be detailed documentation. Okay. Inventory records is information and quantities of what's the stock in hand you're holding. Okay, quantities on hand, ordered, and information on supplier, lead time, etc. So advantages, we can reduce the inventory holding, we can reduce the idle time, we can reduce the setup time, we can reduce the sale price also. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And முன்னாடி நீங்க demand most பண்ணி பண்ணிருப்பீங்க. Better customer service can be provided. You can change the master production schedule depending on okay because you need to know what is the output means depending on you can change the schedule. Yes, you can fix the price more competitively and better response to market demand also. It will be helpful for capacity planning. So that's the 2.2 topic of us. And tells when to work fast as well as to relax because you can you need not chase the demand. Okay, so probably you can plan accordingly. But there are some disadvantages if you are not implementing it properly. Probably you have to follow the discipline. You have to fix the bill of material and the event step. So if not properly maintaining that successful implementation is not there, then it's not going to be helpful. Okay. Sometimes this problem of integration will be there. So as I was telling, just in time, material requirement planning countries one department. So you need to know properly which one has to be done. Just in time is directly will be feeded in the thing. Okay, MRP means no extra time needed, no shortage of time needed. So you should not get confused. Most of the organization, what they do is instead of doing MRP, they go for just in time. But just in time is a more regulated process. ஏன்னா supply regulated இல்லைன்னா நமக்கு set ஆகாது. So that has to be taken. And lack of top management commitment also is one major problem. Top management is not helping us means it will not be helpful. Okay, and is perceived as a complete standalone system to run the firm rather than a subset. Is we have to go in total because all the departments are being operating. So high degree of accuracy of operation is also needed. So here, because we are talking about material, we have to talk about the EOQ and the order quantity. So probably might have done all these problems. Okay. So we'll discuss all this in the problem area. Yeah. We have the same content in costing also. So I'm not going line by line. It's the same EOQ content, what you did do in costing and separately dealt in problems also. Okay. So you can just have a glance. Can you just go through if any doubts in the theory content, we'll discuss. I think every 2.6 is an extended version. First, resource aggregate planning. Resource aggregate planning is a wider version, RAP, resource aggregate planning. Whereas if you go for MRP1, it's a very old version, but it's in narrow sense. We are talking about material, especially of component materials. The latest version is MRP2 because both are MRP. This is material requirement planning. This is manufacturing resource planning. Okay. Looks like an extended version of RAP and MRP. Okay, and it's the latest version. That's why we named this as MRP2. Okay, so so the terms கொஞ்சம் பார்த்துருங்க. It may be helpful for one word. One wordல வந்து what is MRP1 ன்னு கேட்கறாங்க. So MRP1 means here we are talking about material requirement. Okay, that's why we are talking about ordering costs and storage costs and all. Else if we go for MRP2, we are talking about material resource planning. Okay, if you talk about the word colloquially, it gives the same meaning now, but not will mean. Okay. So MRP2 is on manufacturing resource planning. Okay. What we need to develop this type of a planning means the manufacturing manager, so it was somewhat like administration style. He needs to address the planning and controlling of the full manufacturing process. And not only that, all the related supporting function also he has to be aware of. Okay. So he'll go for correct planning and the control activities, not only related to material but also capacity. Yes, please see. It's the latest version. Operation சொல்றீங்க finance வேணும். So finance, engineering, sales, marketing. That's why we say it's the latest version. So not only when we talk about resource, we are talking about everything. But have you ever wondered why you are not talking about sales or marketing here? யோசிக்க மாட்டோம் அதெல்லாம். Okay. So it's an universal applicability depending on the size, location, or product or process. It can be anything, whether it's a small in size or big in size. But suppose a small in size, your MRP2 will be defined in a simple manner. So whether it's a small in size or big in size, location wise, whether it's in India or a particular state or out of India, is everywhere it follows. So it's a management process. Yes, please highlight the management process. Okay, எப்போ வந்து அந்த டெக்னிக்கல் ப்ராசஸ் இல்ல இந்த மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் ப்ராசஸ் யோசிக்கிறாங்களோ அப்போதே உங்களோட கம்பெனி வந்து நெக்ஸ்ட் லெவலுக்கு போகுது. ஸோ தட்ஸ் த ஹைலைட். அதனால இது கான்சஸ் லேட்டஸ்ட் வெர்ஷன். So for taking the business plan and breaking it down into specific detailed tasks that we will evaluate, agree upon and are accountable for. Yes. நம்ம earlier topicsல ஒரு பாயிண்ட் பார்த்துருக்கோம்ல, management involvement should be there. So when we are defining this type of strategy management, when the management involvement is there, then the management will become accountable for, which means they are responsible. Obviously, management is finance management, operations management. Types of departments involved, yes, almost all the departments, material department, engineering, why to maintain BYM, sales, marketing, to keep sales plan up to date, purchasing, manufacturing, almost all the departments will be involved. Okay. What's the difference between MRP and MRP 1 and 2? So, repeated question. MRP is a narrow view, where this is a broader view. It's a planning tool for management. Here, it's the management process itself. Here, we focus only on priorities of materials, raw material or component materials. Here, it's about material requirement planning. see, when you say management process, everything, because இங்க மெட்டீரியல் எவ்வளவு வேணும், எந்த மாதிரி மெட்டீரியல் வேணும்னு சொல்லுது. இங்க வந்து மெட்டீரியல் வாங்க ஒரு பணம் வேணும். So that's a management process. So most of the times, what it happens is, you see, we are talking about Reliance solar panel work. Okay, 5.5 acres, 5.5 lakh acres they are planning. Na? They want investment. So that becomes MRP2. Okay. Both material and time requirement are integrated within the MRP system. Here it becomes a management process. So we talk about this as the heart of the corporate management information system. Okay, so it's a very important heading. Please highlight. Most of the time, this is asked as a theory was MRP1 and MRP2. Okay. So how the term is coined to close the loop. You cannot have one department doing one other planning and another department. So we need to have integrated ones for financial accounting everything. That's why we call this as a management process. Okay. Evolution of MRP2. So how MRP1 is now taken as MRP2 is we are talking about resource requirement planning. It's quite simple and sophisticated in the earlier case. That's RAP. Okay. When we talk about MRP, see when we say MRP is MRP1 only. MRP2 na MRP2 போட்டா MRP2. வெறும் MRP na MRP1 மட்டும்தான். Okay. So when you talk about MRP technique, we are determining what materials, components, how much needed, why they are needed, when they are needed, and etc. But this also seems to be simple. But we need to have the close to zone. That's why we are planning for MRP2. So now MRP technique is extended. It becomes a key component in the information system. See what the management do is they collect all the information from all the department and they define or pool it as a different strategy. Okay, so it is helpful for production, operation managers, they give priority and completely they lay the foundation. Okay, so that's the extension of this environment technique. So that's about this topic. And 2.7, let me finish it off. Nothing in 2.7. 2.7 is about economic batch quantity. So we are talking about, see, in EBQ model, we were talking in terms of job wise. Here we talk about batch wise, which means we extend that concept. Okay, so it's an extension of job concept. Under this method, costing products are standardized and process are repetitive because job only knows the repetitive process. So toy making, the same toys are made. Okay, some mold will be made and it will be done in batches. TV parts, radio, watchmaking, everything. It helps in reducing the cost as units and goods are produced in bulk batches. Okay. So, more or less the same formula. Everything same. Okay. So how you determine this lot size, economic lot size, depending on the usage rate. எவ்வளோ lot பண்ணா நம்மளுக்கு வந்து ஸ்டாக் இருக்கும். Okay, அந்த மாதிரி management. Then manufacturing cost. Higher the lot size, is lower the unit cost per unit. Okay. And cost of deterioration, higher the lot size, higher with the possibility of நிறைய மணி வச்சுட்டானா risk தானே நமக்கு. And obsolescence is also a drawback. Obsolescence is outdated. So miscellaneous probably verification should be done. So what economic size will be helpful? How you are going to balance the two opposing costs? So one is setup cost will be there and inventory carrying over. See when we talk about batch, we'll talk about setup cost. And our batch setup time மாறும். அந்த டைமுக்கு காஸ்ட் ஆகும். That's the only additional thing here. Okay. The things are not common. So that's about this content one. So completely unit 2 is done. Unit 2 theory contents. Thank you for thanks for joining.